Where's Shabisky? We don't see him on camera.
I'm about to go check and see if my food got here, and if it hasn't, I'm gonna
Sorry that we're late, everyone. Blame Shabisky.
You're late. Okay.
Well, anyway, last week, so I haven't streamed for 2 weeks. The week prior to last week, there was a hurricane and a bad lightning storm, so my power kept going on and off, bouncing my, pretty much disconnecting my router and everything. Then when I rescheduled it a couple days later, it turned out that I had a copyright strike. And I contacted the woman's video that I had the copyright strike from, and she actually decided to resolve the strike, to rescind it. She said it was set to automatically strike the video or whatever. She didn't know that it would have that kind of effect. So that's good, but then I had to go away from work, so I was gone for weeks. So we're doing a show tonight, which is what everyone wanted. They wanted Sega versus Nintendo. And we're also going to do a show on Sundays. So I'm thinking of what topic should we cover next Sunday or this Sunday? And I hear static. Where's that coming from?
Oh.
Shabisky. It's his fault.
Well, anyway, people watching, tell me, what would you like to see us do this Sunday? But anyway, Raisin Girl, Dirt says he's got COVID. So Dirt's sick. TwoGun is being a flake, and Raisin Girl said she'll be here in an hour. But I did not grow up with Genesis or Super Nintendo, so the earliest or the oldest generation of consoles I can remember growing up with is like the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation.
Oh, I remember playing Sega and the original Nintendo. So.
Because, yeah, my sister had a PlayStation 1. I ended up getting a GameCube and a PS2. And I know the GameCube and the PS2, they came out in like 2001 and 2002 and everything. So I was like in elementary school when those consoles came out. So they were still selling N64 games and PlayStation 1 games in stores, but they were pretty much at the end of their life cycle by the time I was old enough to get into video games. So Sega,
I love Sega.
Yeah, don't really have much of a relationship with Sega at all.
I think I liked my Sega more than I liked the original Nintendo.
Played they did I know now they're a publisher, so I think now they're like one of the top 5 or 6 publishers. So I played Bayonetta. I know they did Chrome Hounds.
There was this one game. It's like a bootleg Mortal Kombat, but it was called Eternal Champions. And that was my shit. I played that game every day.
Shab, what's your favorite Sega game? Any game developed by Sega?
I didn't play Sega growing up, really.
Well, I'm saying like games they made for other platforms, like PlayStation or Nintendo, Xbox.
Oh. I don't think Shab knows.
What about you, Origin?
I never played Nintendo or Sega. The first game console we had was a PlayStation, the first one. But my favorite PlayStation game was Medieval. I played that game to hell and back.
Well, we're talking about Sega.
We had it. Well,
like
I said, I didn't grow up with either of those.
Mm-hmm.
Don't be rude, Gene.
It's still a gaming system.
Okay, well, anyway, Sega Origins.
Yeah.
So they came about around 50 years after Nintendo. Nintendo, I believe, was founded in like 1890. So, I mean, Nintendo, they didn't get into the game industry until like the 70s. So they were making toys and cards and everything. So just think about that. Like, Nintendo was producing game, or they were distributing game, I guess toy. No, they were distributing toys and card games longer than they've been actually distributing video games.
They said gays.
Yeah, but Sega pretty much always had its origins in video games. So Sega, when abbreviated, stands for service games. So essentially, they manufactured and distributed like certain casino gambling-based games and pinball games. And there are games that use simple like predicate logic, so essentially they didn't really have AI, so they're more like mechanical games. And the
So
first
in
kind of original product they made that wasn't just some kind of like I guess or that had more proprietary components is Periscope. So this is kind of interesting. So this came out in, this says 68. I believe it came out in like 1966.
That's neat. So what do you do? Okay. What the fuck?
Damn.
Now, this is before, so I believe that like the Magnavox came out in like 74. So we covered the first generation, like the earliest game consoles in the last, the last episode. And this, it came out for like 8 years before that. Yeah, what do you think?
I don't
It's very
think much.
loud.
I've told you that.
It's very loud.
That's why I was gonna say that these were the first games that didn't have an AI to it. I was gonna say like if Shabisky was a game, essentially. Is that what you're saying?
I am a game.
That's a bad joke. Where is it?
Take a sip every time Origin tells some terrible like bad joke. But
Dude, Gene, grab my joystick. Play me.
try to
I'm a
pronounce his
game
name,
genius.
Shabisky. This guy right
I'm a-
here.
Come on, Gene. Who's that guy? Hey,
He's the
hey!
founder of Nintendo.
He-
He's
it look-
Japanese.
It looked like he has small hands.
Oh my god.
It does. It looked
It's,
like he had small hands.
Zoro
Or does it?
Yamachi.
Or does my face just look small and his does look? His looks big.
No, I think he has got small hands.
He's
So
got small hands. He's like you, Gene. He's got small little girly
1889.
hands. That's neat.
Mm-hmm.
That's hot.
So what is that? That's like 130 years ago.
Damn.
So they're a pretty old company. I believe they're one of the oldest licensed or registered private corporations in Japan. And of course, the first era of Nintendo were their card games that they sold in 1989, 1949. Now, one interesting thing with
Wait, did you say Nintendo?
Nintendo.
This is
Yeah.
Nintendo? Okay.
Yeah. So one interesting thing with like Nintendo regarding like their rivalry with Sega is that both of them had to find workarounds around like gambling restrictions. So in the same way they had like alcohol prohibition in the US, where it's like, why are you going to make alcohol illegal? They banned like gambling for a while in the earlier half of like the 20th century. So a lot of like playing cards and stuff were made illegal. So these kind of cards were designed around more of like an artistic appeal, but they had certain symbols or whatever, so you could still play various different like typical card games if you wanted with them. So they found some kind of loophole to
Why
sell
are
kind
cards illegal?
of because they didn't want people gambling. And it's the same thing. Japan, like they had the service games, like the gambling or the casino games on military bases and so forth, because it was a workaround of like the gambling restrictions and everything. And here, I always have a difficult time pronouncing these. They're Hanafuda cards. Hanafuda.
So
So
they sold
Pretty-
cards like Pokemon?
yeah, pretty much they
Pokemon cards?
they weren't really like Pokemon. But they weren't trading cards. But Hirosho
Why couldn't you trade
Yamachi,
them?
I guess you could if you wanted to, but
Yes.
they technically weren't trading cards.
Hiroshi
But,
Yamauchi.
yes, this guy was the president of Nintendo pretty much up until the like GameCube. So he retired right before like the Wii was released, and Who was the guy who was the president of Nintendo during the Wii's lifespan? I know Reggie's the president of
Stalin?
America now. Whatever, but pretty much the company was really small and wasn't really that lucrative or whatever, but he changed it into a huge like multi-million-dollar corporation once he took charge, and he was the third president of the company. And one major like lucrative decision he made is he had a partnership with Walt Disney, where they designed various like children's books, Disney cards, Disney board games. So just think of that like Nintendo for like around like 5 years, they were producing this huge line of like Disney board games.
Hold on, go back to that picture real quick. Hold on, can we go back to that other one real quick for just a
Why?
moment? Is it easy to go back? Okay, so like you see the Dalmatians, you see
Yes.
where they're looking.
I knew, I knew you were gonna say that, Shabisky.
They're all like staring at her ass. Looking at Bambi's ass. Even the gnome guy too. He looks like he's looking at the ass too.
The
They're all
gnome
just
guy,
staring
you
at
mean the dwarf.
Yeah, the
Snow
dwarf.
White and the Seven Dwarfs.
They're all just staring at Bambi's asshole. This is odd.
No,
Even
I mean,
Daffy Duck
was-
is looking over there.
if
Bambi's a
Nintendo came
freak.
out,
What do you expect?
Bambi's like, yeah, you want this ass? Yeah,
no, but
you want this?
Shab, if Nintendo
Bambi
was
saw his mother get
established-
shot in front of him. He's a little damaged, okay?
if Nintendo was established as a company in 1989 or in 1889, that means it's older than Disney.
What?
Yeah. A lot of people don't think of that. You'd think Disney was older than Nintendo, but Nintendo's older than Disney. And here's all the various like Disney trading cards that they made. And here's all the board games that Nintendo made for Disney, and some of them aren't even based on Disney products. So
Dude,
they were part of like
Some of
they
this
were
shit
part
is-
of the
Sorry. I was just gonna say some of this shit is probably worth so much fucking money right now.
yeah.
Like
We'll
those
get into
trading
that,
cards
but-
you were just showing.
And
You should
they
collect
made
these, Shabisky.
yeah,
Yeah.
these are worth a lot of money. These were made by Nintendo, so these were alarm clocks they made for Disney. And then here's a Popeye trading card game. It says Nintendo there. Now, Popeye actually plays a very important role when it comes to the history of Nintendo, because the Donkey Kong, when they were developing Donkey Kong, it was originally supposed to be a Popeye game.
Hmm.
Oh wow.
But
Why?
so
Uh-oh.
before they got into toys, which was like in the like late 60s, and after their deal with Disney, they tried to experiment with like other sort of enterprises. So one was there was a Nintendo taxi chain. This is a vacuum product. Now that goes for a lot of money. So they had this special like weird vacuum apparatus that they sold, and they even sold like this like instant rice product. And one thing that might shock you is they owned a chain of love hotels.
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
Those
They
are
might as
big,
well. It makes
lucrative
money.
Fucking things in Japan and China, so
Yeah. So
Korea and all that.
yeah. So pretty much
Shabisky wants to
between
go there.
like 63 and 68, so like the latter half of the 60s, they kind of went through a small, I guess, like succession in terms of like financial progress, and they ended up finding their footing with toys. So Nintendo started a huge toy enterprise from 1964 to 1972. And these are some of their earliest toy products. So their first one was called Rabbit Coaster. And here you got Home Race, Picture Cutter, Home Bowling. So they all have these very kind of like eccentric designs and everything.
Looks
They
very
sold
retro.
Yep, they had a line of toy guns that they sold to children, which is kind of weird because when we think of toy guns, we think of Nerf guns that have this really, I guess, this weird extravagant or like alien design where they're orange and everything. They got the orange
Mhm.
caps. These look
Yeah,
like
orange
straight
and
up
yellow
guns.
Mexicans.
Well, I mean, back in the 50s and such, we sold toy guns here in America as well. There was what was that one in a Christmas story that what's his
Red
name
Ryder
always
Well,
BB
that was
wants
a
to
gun.
BB
It's a
gun.
Red
Yeah.
Ryder BB gun.
Well, it's still technically kind of a toy. It's not a real gun.
No, it's just a Red Ryder BB gun.
Now, this guy's Gunpei Yokoi, and he's known as one of Nintendo's great prodigies, and he's one of the major innovators in the video game industry overall. So he's the guy who designed the Game Boy and everything, but he was working with Nintendo since the 60s, and he worked as a car mechanic when they had their lineup of taxi cabs. So just think of that. The guy who made the Game Boy, the reason why he got a job for Nintendo was he was working as a mechanic for their cab service. And then he kind
So
of
he like thought about it and designed the Game Boy while he was making taxi cabs.
well, he designed this. So this was their first major successful toy product called the Ultra Grab, and I think it was 1966.
My kid had one of those.
Yeah, and he he was just messing around with certain equipment, and he created this just in his own free time. And one of the executives of Nintendo saw it, and this is when he was just a young mechanic, and they decided to hire him on as a creative consultant for future toy products.
They could have used that as one of those really bad, like, are you tired of having to get up to get the drink over there? Well, not anymore. Here's the long reach arm.
It's called a nab
You
grabber.
can grab things.
Yeah.
My kid calls it a nab grabber. You nab it with the grabber. Nab grabber.
Don't
Yeah,
lie.
Shabs.
Stop.
But
Shab.
right here,
Don't
this
take
is
one
like
from
the
me.
Game & Watch series, and this was like to compete with Tiger Electronics, and this was a little bit before the Game Boy, but this is much later, like in the 80s. But they made like a Ultra Grab, I guess, like homage Game & Watch game. And here, for one of the WarioWare games for the GBA, they had a Ultra Grab game or mini game. Yeah, so a lot of these weird products they made, they all have what's the right? They all have like throwbacks or homages in a lot of Nintendo games. So here they created an Ultra Grab game for the Wii. I guess for the Wii, like Virtual Console. Ultra Hand.
This is for the Wii.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
Does that look entertaining, Chad?
It looks
This is
like
the kind of thing.
looks like
What's that?
Looks like Mario Party. Looks like one of the
Yeah.
one of their games, but except Mario Party's got a whole spectrum of games. Like
Yeah, they have a huge plethora of mini
Yeah.
games. Like this seems like if you don't know the history behind it, it doesn't really seem like it would have any appeal. Okay, and here's another game that he designed called the Hip Flip. I couldn't find any footage of this game, and I bet this probably goes for a lot of money. So this is some weird party game. And the Ultra Grab and the Hip Flip, these are some of the first products that they, outside of their Disney products, when it comes to their toy line, that they sold outside of Japan and in the West. So here's another one that's kind of interesting, and this goes for a lot of money.
you put those
This
up
is
your
called
butt?
Yeah.
the Nintendo Love Tester. And this is the first Nintendo product to use electronic components. It was the first Nintendo product sold outside of Japan. I guess outside of like all the Disney products they sold, and it was titled "The Love/Lie Detector in Western Markets," and a notable quote from Gunpei Yokoi is, "I loved explaining how the meter gave better results when people kissed the girl." So
Damn,
essentially,
they're
it
trying
had
to use
these.
this.
Yeah, so essentially, a couple, like one person would hold one magnet, the other person would hold the other magnet sensor, and it just measured their pulse.
Hmm.
So it was kind of just a
You know what
weird,
that
like, gag gift or whatever.
that sounds like something that they
Here's
get
the-
kids to want to kiss each other.
Let's try it out, Gene. Me and you, babe.
Here's the commercial.
Oh, that's loud, Gene.
Super loud.
Yeah, turn it down.
Oh, okay, so
Aw,
this is interesting.
This is
So
where
Duck
Duck
Hunt,
Hunt came from.
getting
Yup.
hot.
they released a weird, like, light gun game that wasn't even, I don't think this was even an electronic game, but Duck Hunt did not originate on the NES, and I believe Duck Hunt for the NES was released, like, in the early 80s. So this is, like 5-6 years before the Duck Hunt game that we all know of was
Yeah.
released.
The Super Mario Brother game that I had was Duck Hunt and Super Mario. So you had
Yeah.
to like exit out of Duck Hunt in order
Mhm.
to play Mario.
It'd be like half. Like
Yeah, that was released with the NES. So that was their launch title.
Okay. That's probably why.
And that's the most ubiquitous or the most common NES game.
Yeah.
But people make like video game art, so they'll make like collages or whatever out of NES cartridges. So people always use the Mario/Duck Hunt carts because they're the most like abundant like NES games. But because of that, they're starting to become more scarce because people are damaging them. So I don't think people should be making game art out of actual game products. I guess here's a video sample of
Kill the ducks. Should make a Hunt Shabisky game.
Okay, why'd it go back?
yeah,
We need to see them
I
shooting the
would play
ducks.
that.
I'm Gene.
Okay, here we go. Now, I do know that before home game consoles or arcade games were really a thing, one thing that they did is they sold like these weird light gun devices to gun owners or to like gun clubs or whatever. So it would have like like I guess it was like practice for like hunting birds and stuff like that, and it would usually be set up in front of a projector.
Uh-huh.
So now this is another Wild Gunman was also a game for the NES that originated as some kind of like toy.
They were really
So
into
here-
guns in the 60s and 70s, huh?
Yeah.
Some kind of gunman.
So here's the NES game in 1984.
Turn it down, Gene.
Hey, that's your job on your end to deal with the volume.
Damn, he just blew him away.
But that doesn't change how it is for these guys.
Oh.
Gene's learning things today.
And here's Mock Rider. And there's also an NES Mock Rider game 7 years
Yeah.
later.
They really do love upgrading their little toy games to actual video games.
Well, it seems like it would be convenient, so if they need ideas, it's just...
And also, if people actually liked the toy version, they would want to upgrade to the game version.
Okay, so Nintendo's entry into the arcade market. So, like we saw before, the early 70s was when we start to see a lot of the earlier Pong consoles hit the market. The Magnavox Odyssey was released in like 1972, and we start to see all the Pong consoles compete with one another in the 70s. And then the 2600 was released in like 1976. So so here's the laser clay shooting system. So I guess you could technically consider this to be Nintendo's first video game. And this was a series of like weird projector-based games that they made like throughout 1976 and 1977. And I don't know if you could technically consider these video games. But in 1978, we started to see some more conventional like arcade machines that didn't rely on a projector unit. And here's Block Fever and Computer Othello. And these weren't really commercially or critically successful. People didn't think that they were that entertaining. And they had this weird, I guess, like top-down kind of interface instead of like the more conventional arcade interface.
Kind of looks like ice hockey a little bit, how it's formatted.
A little bit. I can see where you're seeing that.
Yeah, so the first 3 years...
I'm a boss at ice hockey.
Yeah, the first 3 years that they released arcade units, they didn't do too well commercially. But then they hired Shigeru Miyamoto as a creative consultant, and he's the guy behind...
He looks angry.
He's the guy behind Donkey Kong, Super Mario, Zelda, F-Zero, Star Fox, and Pikmin. So he's pretty much the creative mind behind all their greatest IPs. And
it's thanks to him, Shabisky.
So Donkey Kong was their first major commercial success when it came to arcade machines, and it was packaged with the ColecoVision. So the ColecoVision was released in like 1983, and the Famicom, I believe, was released several months after. So the Famicom, I do believe its interface, its hardware, was very similar to the ColecoVision. So, of course, we've all seen Donkey Kong before. And like I mentioned before, it originally was supposed to be a Popeye game, and Popeye was supposed to be, Popeye was Mario, Olive Oil was it Pauline? And Bluto was supposed to be Donkey Kong. And they later did make a Popeye arcade game. And I believe Donkey Kong is considered the first game to tell a story. People typically credit it for that. I don't know if that's true, because a lot of times when you're told that this is the first thing to do this, usually if you do your homework, you'll find out that that's not really legit.
All right.
Yeah, Shabisky.
No, you.
So we covered the Pong systems last time. So Nintendo only released Pong systems in Japan. So like the first generation of consoles, which is kind of weird because now if they release something like you have like Tamagotchi or the Tiger, like electronics, they're not considered systems if it's just like one built-in game. But the first generation of consoles, they would just have like one game installed, which was like a Pong game or like a racing game or something, and they were considered to be a system in the same way the 2600 or the NES was a system. And it was mainly Magnavox, Coleco, and Atari. They were the three. They were the big three when it came to the first generation. So Nintendo was kind of like they were more like a D, E tier kind of competitor. And they had their Nintendo Color TV game line of consoles. So here's a commercial to some of their Color TV Pong systems. And if you consider Pong systems to be consoles, then I guess technically the Famicom or the NES was not their first game system.
ゲームの種類によって変わります。ラケットの大きさやボールのスピードが変えられるので、ハイテクニックなゲームが楽しめます。見るテレビから遊べるテレビへ。15種類ものゲームが楽しめるカラーテレビゲーム15、9800円のカラーテレビゲーム6もあります。
Doesn't that look entertaining, Shab?
Yeah, let's play it. I'll beat you. Beat your ass.
Oh, this game's a block breaker.
崩したブロックの得点を競うブロックアウト。
Look at how skilled he is. That's like people who like they play Space Invaders and they shoot through their own force fields. They know what they're doing.
It's like
These are the people.
I had that game installed on my first phone.
They know how to get the ball around like the like exterior or whatever. They get it on top. They know how to like break the game. So here's Nintendo Racing.
Same August.
What did August say?
His Tamagotchi always ended up dying in its own filth.
I never had a Tamagotchi pet.
I had a couple of them. They all died.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Shab, did your pancakes show up yet?
The what?
Did your pancakes show up yet?
No, I don't. I ordered something else because it didn't seem like they were showing up. I'm gonna go look in a minute.
You ordered pancakes at like 8 o'clock at night?
No, I think his girlfriend ordered them for him. Actually.
No, that's not my girlfriend. What?
I thought you said she ordered them for you, so I just assumed that you were talking.
I think it's a girl now.
Yeah, I didn't know D got you freaking treat stream. I thought you just
yeah.
meant like your girlfriend had ordered you pancakes at one point.
Nah, D
I
Higgins
must have walked
did.
away.
And I haven't seen that it showed up yet. It's been like 2 hours, so I ordered something else. And if it doesn't come at all, I'm just gonna have to complain that it didn't come.
Yeah.
It didn't come, Gene. It didn't come. Gene, can you help me
anyway,
make it come? Sorry.
Like we mentioned last time, with like the Atari like generation of consoles, there was the game crash because the market was oversaturated, and that was between like 1983 and 1986. So there's like a 3-year period where they weren't selling video games in the U.S. And the recession or the Great Recession of the game industry did not affect the market in Japan. So in Japan, video games were alive and well. So all the Western competitors died off, like ColecoVision and Intellivision and Atari. So pretty much Sega, Nintendo ended up filling that void. And the SG-1000 would be Sega's first game console, and it was only around for a little less than a year, or I guess a little more than a year, and it sold less than it sold less than 1 million units, so 160,000 units, and it had 105 games overall. Now, one mistake Sega made is that they did not want third-party publishers releasing games for the console. They wanted to exclusively publish all the games because they wouldn't make money if a publisher like Atari was releasing games. Nintendo found a way around that where people had to get the games licensed. So you had the Nintendo seal of approval. So Nintendo found a way where if you wanted to release games on their console, you'd have to get it licensed. So they would get like a third of the profits. But you had the Famicom, which was released in 1983, and this was pretty much the Japanese version of the Nintendo Entertainment System, and it was discontinued in 2003, so it was sold on the market or distributed for like 20 years. And one weird thing is that the controllers were actually hardwired into the console, and I don't believe they had additional controller ports. And one of the controllers had a microphone. So I know certain games like Zelda, like there are certain enemies that you could only kill by like saying something into the microphone. And this sold like 19 million units, so it definitely outsold the SG-1000, and it had like 10 times the amount of games. Most likely because it was on the market much longer. And it had an add-on system called the Nintendo Disk System, and this utilized some kind of like floppy drive technology that could store like I believe floppy disks could store like a few megabytes. I know CDs could store like a few hundred megabytes. So these could store like 30 megabytes worth of information, which is a lot more than the cartridges could. Right. And these were like proprietary like floppy disks. So here you see like Nintendo is etched in the bottom, and that's to stop people from manufacturing their own games through the system. And they had these weird kiosks that were all around Tokyo and major cities in Japan, where it was kind of like Redbox. You could put the floppy disk in, and you could actually
like a new floppy disk or something.
Well, it would install. It would rewrite the data and install a new game into it. So let's say you owned it and you wanted to play Mario Brothers 2, and you had like Mega Man on it. You'd put Mega Man in. You'd purchase Mario Brothers 2, and it would
erase Mega Man and replace it with the Mario Brothers.
Yep, and you could also save your games. So that's another thing that allowed you to do. Most of the games on the traditional cartridge, you weren't able to save them. They had to use a password system, and they ended up finding a way around that, which I'll discuss later on. But what's kind of annoying for collectors now, in hindsight, is when you buy a game, you don't know what you're getting. You might buy a game where on the cover it says Mega Man, but then you put it in and it's like Super Mario or something.
Right.
And I don't know why I just did that, but yeah. This was released 3 years after it originally came on the market, so here's the commercial. Here, let's put on the subtitles and see what we get. I don't think it knows how to properly translate.
Uni old school, Tenshin go happy. Gana gana mana cascada.
Had some Spanish terms in there.
Listen to Shab. Shab's like, oh, they know speak English.
No, it's the subtitles.
Shabisky over here.
Gene, stop being racist.
The subtitles.
Okay.
The subtitles had some Spanish words in there. I was like, they're not speaking Spanish.
You not find that it's funny, Gene? Oh no, that's racist. It's racist when
guys, he's fat. So
yeah,
you don't really have room to talk.
Yeah, you're about as racist as it gets, Gene. Piece of shit.
I don't know.
Hey, it's the individual's fault.
I'm Dean.
You can't help what your race is. You can help being fat.
Some people can.
You're lying,
anyway, I really did, but
those people, those kids that they show that are born with that like disease that makes them like.
Yes, I know.
You don't even care about those.
You got like Prader-Willi syndrome, and you got like Cushing's disease. You got all that stuff. I know.
I'm Gene. I know stuff.
But what about the disease? But what about the disease that makes you permanently?
History. We're not talking about like genetic disorders that cause weight gain.
Save that for another
episode. It would be Shabisky, essentially.
But
that'd be the Shabisky show.
Did you ever play Super Mario Brothers 2 for the NES?
I did.
Did you know that the version we got in the US was not the true Mario Brothers 2? It was a game called Doki Doki Panic that was reskinned because they decided that Mario Brothers 2 in Japan was too hard for all the stupid Americans. But this is the real Mario Brothers 2. It was pretty much the exact same engine and everything as Mario Brothers 1. But it was exceptionally more difficult. Link sounds like a girl.
It's a crow?
Dude, he's a bad influence.
God.
He's gonna like go to school and get put in timeout for screaming.
What an annoying commercial. It's like, let's have everyone just yell the whole time.
I like the little yelling girl.
But anyway, the NES was released in the US 2 years after the Famicom was released in Japan, and it had a complete overhaul because they needed to find a way to encourage Western audiences to kind of give gaming a second chance after the mess that was the second generation of gaming. So this sold like 34 million units, and I do believe it's like one of the top 5 best-selling consoles of all time. It sold around double that if you include the Famicom sales, and there were around 700 something games released overall. So the Famicom had around like over 1,000 games, so it had a few hundred more than the NES. But like I mentioned before, you have the Nintendo seal of approval. So essentially, unlike with like the Atari or ColecoVision, if you wanted a game to be released on Nintendo, you had to get it approved, and they had a lockout chip. So it was very hard to program games for the system. There were some games that found a way around it. They found a way to jailbreak it, but for the most part, a game had to be somewhat functionable in order to be released. So it was a way to prevent a decent amount of shovelware from making its way onto the system. And another thing they did to make it more appealing to a Western audience is they kind of designed it to kind of have a similar infrastructure as a VHS player.
Yeah.
So the way you loaded the cartridges. So they had two sets. They had the Nintendo Action set, and then they had the Nintendo, I forget what the other one was called, the Entertainment set. But the Action set pretty much came with the light gun and Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. And Shab, you're making a bunch of noise.
Well, hold on. I'm trying to take a dab real quick, Gene.
Yeah, you got to take a dab.
Yeah, but I'm trying to look at this action, and I do want to look at this action set.
I told you
mute yourself.
Gene, I'm trying to look at this action set. Can you calm down? Okay.
Oh.
Are you even old enough to have used this action set before, Gene? Youngin?
No, but
yeah, youngin. I played that. I held that orange gun in my hand, went pop, 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 at the screen.
Well, I actually do own a Zapper, because when I was in middle school and when I was in high school, I did actually get into game collecting. I'd go to like gaming like pawn shops and stuff, and I purchased games on eBay. But they called it, like, instead of calling it a game console, they called it an entertainment system. To be like, hey, look, it's not a conventional game console. It has a light gun. It's got all these peripherals and everything. It comes with two controllers, so two people can play. So it's an entertainment system. It's not a game console. So that's another way they try to appeal to the Western market.
That also sounds like normally when you think of game, I think maybe they have that connotation that it means childlike or something. But if you call it entertainment, that seems a little bit more broad and such.
And such?
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
That's loud.
Toys at Toys R Us that I can play with.
Toys R Us has the Nintendo Action Set. It comes with control deck, 2 game controllers, zapper light gun, and double game pack. All for just $99.99. And with all the hottest game cartridges from $29.99 to $59.99.
That's expensive even for that back then.
You guys can adjust the volume when I'm sharing my screen. You can adjust the like the audio of what you're hearing from the screen sharing.
I'll turn it down a bunch, okay? Now you keep going crazy with the volume then.
Okay, so here's the deluxe set, and this came with an additional game, Gyromite, that was played with the Rob the Robot peripheral. And once again, it's an entertainment system. It comes with this weird robot toy apparatus, a light gun, 2 controllers, so it's multiplayer ready right out of the box. And I do believe that Rob the Robot peripheral, it came with a bunch of like other like apparatuses and so forth, and it goes for a lot of money.
Yeah, I've never even heard of Rob the Robot. I played this console when I was a kid, but I had never heard of this.
Yeah, so it's designed where it has these sensors, so when it's like you point it to look at the screen, and then the screen will flash like red or white, and based on like the lighting of the screen will control like what the robot does. But the games kind of suck because it takes the robot like 2 minutes to follow through with a command. So like it showed back a couple seconds back. So when those
that controller,
yeah. So when the
hand controller that, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, when the pipes go up and down, pretty much it would take 2 minutes for the robot to do what it needs to, just so you could progress through like that part of the game.
When you play the system with so many arcade hits, you're playing with power.
Yeah. Looks like this kid's having the time of his life here. This robot game.
That hand controller, the hand controller that they use for that, it looks like the controller that they use for the Tetris championships that they do for the where is it? They put it on YouTube and such. It's the same controller essentially that they use.
But I believe
have you never used that controller before, Origin?
Nope.
Yeah, those are the conventional NES controllers.
This is weird, Missy. I'm reaching the age where I can talk to he's never used that controller before. You played this
It's a little
console.
weird, right?
Isn't it weird?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's weird.
It's weird.
I played
because you know which one we're looking at,
and...
right? The one with the like you've played the NES.
Yeah, my little brother had this one.
Yeah, I was playing this as a little kid.
The Gyromite game you could play with 2 players, so you didn't have to use Rob the Robot. But if you did, it was kind of took all the fun out of it, because it would take like 2 hours to get through one screen that would take like 4 minutes to do with another person. So Rob didn't have the greatest artificial intelligence.
Games galore.
Incredible Nintendo Entertainment System, the one to play with Rob, the extraordinary video robot, batteries not included. He helps you tackle even the toughest challenge. Will you be the first to raise the incredibly accurate Zapper and play games like Duck Hunt or action-packed Hogan's Alley and high-flying Kung Fu, each sold separately? Will you be the one to experience the Nintendo Entertainment System? Comes with Rob, Zapper, Control Deck, 2 controllers, Gyromite, and Duck Hunt.
Yay.
There was one other game released where it was designed around like Rob the Robot. I forget what that game was.
Games you love.
Where's the?
Maybe that's where Brett King got that idea. He saw this and he was like, "Oh, it sounds like a good name."
It's not letting me minimize it.
Oh, I gotta escape. Batteries not included. He helps you tackle even the toughest
I'm Rob the Robot.
I'm Rob.
Okay, so here's another one of their big commercial successes, Kid Icarus. Which I've never played this.
Never heard of this.
And I know
I feel a Cupid.
Yeah, the Cupid character, his name's Pit. You could play him in Smash Brothers Brawl. And they released like a 3DS game with like a reboot of Kid Icarus. So he's kind of like the Ice Climbers, or the Ice Climbers were in Melee and they were just kind of like in one NES game.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it's kind of like people describe it as being like a hybrid of Zelda and Metroid. It's kind of like it's kind of like Zelda 2. God, where's the thing that allows you to? Okay, there it is. So here's Metroid. Now, Metroid, you could save it for the Famicom because it was released on the disk system. So the floppy disk interface allowed you to save. The first game on the NES that allowed you to save was Zelda, because it used like a battery what did they call it? Battery-backed memory. Yeah. So games on the Super Nintendo, pretty much all of them allowed you to save because they had more advanced or sophisticated like battery backup memory. I don't know what the proper terminology is, but there were only a handful of games for the NES that had that kind of save feature. But for the NES in America, you had to use a passcode in order to pretty much save your progress. And I never played through the first Metroid game. I played Metroid Zero Mission and Metroid Fusion for the Game Boy Advance, and I played all 3 of the Metroid Prime games. And for, I believe, Zero Mission and Metroid Prime, you could unlock the original Metroid. And in Animal Crossing, there were NES games you could find, you could purchase from the store. and I had a lot of the NES games for Animal Crossing. So I played a little bit of Metroid, didn't get too far. It's one of those games where, like Zelda, you get lost right away. And I do know that the original Zelda, when it was released, it pretty much had an entire book that came with it. It came with a map and everything. So in order to really play the game, you really required a manual. So it was a game that was centered around having some kind of like text-based guide. But Metroid, one major appeal of this game was you could actually walk backwards. And I believe with the NES or the Famicom compared to the SG 1000, its hardware allowed for screen scrolling. So pretty much games
loved
between...
Metroid, but I think I played mine on the Dreamcast because it looked very different than this. Or the GameCube, maybe. It was probably in the GameCube.
Yeah. But prior to the NES, pretty much all consoles, the games would consist of just one screen at a time.
Right.
So, like Mario Brothers, you could move forward, like you could constantly progress throughout multiple screens, and one level would consist of dozens and dozens of screens. And in Metroid, you could go backwards. So this was something that was very innovative at the time. So the NES was really the first console where people got used to playing games where it wasn't just on one screen, like what you typically saw in the arcades. And
go back in a game and do stuff, right?
Yeah. And the Famicom and the NES are typically considered to be the same console. The Famicom's just the Japanese version of the NES. The SG-1000, because of that limitation, they pretty much had to make a different system. So it is considered a separate console entirely. So it's not like it's their version of the Master System. So there was a Master
Shabisky
System
left.
release.
He's just kidding.
Yes, we're aware of that.
Don't worry about it.
And wasn't there, I know if you beat the game within a certain amount of time, you unlocked a cutscene where you found out Samus, like the plot twist is she was a female protagonist.
Really?
Yeah. What, you didn't know Samus was a girl?
No, I just didn't know that there was a thing where you could do that.
And I know there was a cheat code, Justin Bailey, which you could put in that gave you all the level upgrade. It gave you all the power-ups along with she would run around in like a bikini or whatever.
Huh.
And according to Anita Sarkeesian, it's incredibly racist because of that.
Probably.
Did you see the latest Nintendo newsletter?
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System.
Yeah, and like in the last gaming episode we did, old game commercials, they pretty much depicted all gamers as being massive dorks.
Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers too. But with your help, our hero pulls through. Yeah, go Link, yeah, get Zelda.
Awesome.
Intense.
Was this before Vanilla Ice came around?
Your parent.
Yeah, I think Shab would have liked that.
Probably.
Dude, Shab's such a flake.
Yeah, knowing his taste in rap, he would have had a good time with that.
I don't know what this...
Did you see the latest Nintendo?
The Google Slides interface acting up. So here's Castlevania. Now, have you watched Castlevania on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, that series is actually pretty decent.
That's one of the animes that I found on there that I like. I just finished that one, and Baki and Blue Demon something. I'm watching the one, I can't remember the fucking name of it, but they're all in the arena, and it's got that chick, and she's got the two henchmen that hold her boobs up.
I haven't seen that.
It's on Netflix. I just can't remember the name of it, but one of the characters, she's this like blonde, like queen god, half god lady, and she's got these henchmen that hold her boobs up for her. That's their job.
It sounds like some Rick and Morty kind of aesthetics, but
I just want to know, where are my henchmen? Because
no, but when I was collecting games,
Drunken will show up one time.
yeah, drunken.
When I was collecting games in like middle school and high school, I actually got Super Castlevania 4 for the Super Nintendo. and Super Metroid. So the two games that I actually did play all the way through on the Super Nintendo were Super Metroid and Super Castlevania 4. And I played Castlevania Symphony of the Night for the PS1. And then I played some of the Castlevania games for the DS. And but Castlevania, I know this is one of the big cult classics for the NES series, and there were 3 Castlevania games. I believe the second one
that he used his allowance on Nintendo Power Magazine for a long time.
And that's another thing, like, I do have slides associated with Nintendo Power, but
Quite perky, actually, Chevy. You'd be surprised.
like the previous generation of games, like we discussed before the game crash, one thing that contributed to it is like kind of a lack of media coverage playing games. People didn't have any ways of knowing which games were good, which games were bad. If you got stuck, like what you could do. So Nintendo Power, there were other like gaming magazines before it, but it was the first major gaming magazine that like did fairly well commercially. So it gave people like the information that they needed and the references that they needed. Then there's also the Nintendo Tip Hotline, where if you got stuck in a game, you could call it, and it charged like I believe like $10 a minute.
What?
So if a kid called
That's
it,
more than those like sex hotlines.
yeah. So if a kid called it like, "Oh, I'm stuck in Zelda. What am I supposed to do?" They'd tell you what you needed to do, but if you were on the phone with them for like 5 minutes, like that was like $50. And that
We
was
would
like,
need you to send $1,000 in a duffel bag to the local doc.
and imagine like how many kids would have seen that like in like the Nintendo Power magazines, and they call it, or like in the manuals and stuff. And yeah, and their parents realize that the phone bill's like an extra like $200.
Yeah, that's kind of the cliche.
Yeah, and I purchased the Castlevania collection for the for Steam, and I don't think the games really held up that way. The controls are kind of very like kind of stiff and very clunky.
My dick is
So
stiff.
like Shabisky.
Yes. And then here's the sequel.
He was calling it stiff and clunky.
I believe this is
My
released in
wiener?
1970.
Yeah.
1976. So I think Castlevania 1, Castlevania 2 released a year apart from one another. So Castlevania 2, I think, was released in 1977.
You're lying.
So Metroid and Zelda were 1976 games, I believe. I probably should have written the date on the slides.
Learn how to write.
Castlevania, how foolish to presume he perished. Out fate stalks your very being, and you need more than clues from cowardly villagers to survive when day turns into night. But just keep telling yourself it's only a video game.
I'm scared, Mom.
Yeah, so Castlevania 2 was kind of like Zelda 2, where it was like this open world RPG game, but it was a side scroller.
Yeah.
And I don't think it did too well critically. So the third and first Castlevania games did very well critically. The second one's considered to be kind of the, I guess, the rotten apple.
Red-headed stepchild.
Yeah.
I'm Gene.
So,
I'm
you
Gene.
have Mega Man, which is called Rockman in Japan. And I believe the first Mega Man game was released in 76.
Cameron's saying
or
86,
86.
not 76.
Yeah, I'm getting the decades wrong. So Zelda and Metroid and Castlevania were 86, and I believe Mega Man was 86, and Simon's Quest is 87.
I'll 86 you, Gene. How about that? 86 the Gene.
Boyd says Simon's Quest was a disappointment.
Yeah, and Mega Man's another game that I tried playing some of the older Mega Man games. I think
did too. I don't like them.
Yeah, I own quite a few. I think I own most of them for the NES, and yeah, they're the kind of just like Zelda and stuff. When I try to play them,
I don't like my ex bought my kids this like I don't even know what the fuck you call it, but it's like this little it looks like a bumblebee, and you plug it into the TV, and it has like 150 something games on it, and all of them like all 10 Mega Mans were on there, and I tried playing a couple of them, and they're just bad.
Well, I mean,
spoiled on like better games now, but I didn't find the appeal to it at all.
I could see how I mean, like GoldenEye's another game that like so many people love that game.
Yeah, I grew up on that one.
Yeah, I never played it when it was at its peak of popularity, but going back and playing it, it hasn't aged well. So I can understand why it had an appeal when it originally came out, but it hasn't really aged well. When it comes to the like Super Nintendo, a lot of the iconic games for the SNES, when I plug it up and play it, I can really get immersed in those games. I played the first 3 Mario Brothers games on the GBA because they remade all of them for the GBA. But when it comes to Metroid and the first Zelda game, they're kind of really difficult to get into if you didn't grow up with them. I beat Link to the Past because that was also re-released for the GBA. So, Mega Man, for some reason, the first few minutes that you play it, you get bored really quickly and you'd rather just play something else. So Mega Man doesn't have an arm cannon in the like first few games. So even on the cover, it shows him with like a blaster. But then here, like in Japan, he's called Rockman. So I guess you're supposed to assume that he's just throwing boulders or rocks at people.
That's funny.
I am Rockman.
And then there's Contra, which I've never played any Contra games. I know
Contra.
Did you ever play?
Or actually, no.
Did you ever play?
I played Super Contra, Contra 3 for the Super Nintendo. I played it for a few minutes. Got bored very, very quickly.
Did you ever play Codename Viper?
No. God, Shab keeps leaving.
He's probably trying to get
Fuck you, Shab. And I do know,
He's probably waiting for his food.
Like, I've seen retrospectives of it. Like, at the end, it's kind of, has, like, an Alien-esque, like, the Alien film franchise. Like, at the end, you're in somewhat of, like, a xenomorph kind of hive mind. And, the other big, I guess, quirk of the series is the spreader. And I guess another big appeal of the game, so like with Metroid, where you could go backwards, Zelda, you could save and it was an open world adventure. This, you could shoot in all 8 directions. So for some reason, a lot of shooters that were side scrollers, you could only shoot forward or forward and up. This allowed you to shoot while you jump and shoot in all directions. So even Mega Man, you could only shoot in one direction. I believe in Metroid, you can only shoot in one direction as well. It wasn't until Super Metroid where you could shoot in all 8 directions. Wasn't it? It's Konami that developed this, and I believe Contra is also 87. I'm gonna try to guess what date or what year these came out, and people in the comments need to tell me if I'm right.
Cameron will know. He's a genius.
God, we're down to 5 viewers again.
Maybe they're bored of Contra. Or it's because Shab's not on the screen.
Oh, and here's the first Final Fantasy.
Whoa.
So,
Well, what?
Just I haven't seen this in a long while.
So, the first Final Fantasy game, do you know why it was called Final Fantasy?
No.
because Square Enix, the company that developed it, and they're one of the most successful developers, and currently they're a publisher as well. So they were going out of business, and I believe they filed for like Chapter 11 and everything. So they called the game Final Fantasy because it was the final game that their company was going to release, and it ended up reviving the company. So it brought the company out of debt because of how successful it was.
And now we're coming up to Final Fantasy 15. So there's a million of them now.
Today, isn't there like crazy amounts of them?
And I haven't played any of the Final Fantasy games.
I played, I think, 2 out of the 15.
I played a lot of Dragon Quest games. One of the reasons why I never played Final Fantasy is I'm kind of OCD. So it's like when there's a million games in the franchise, it's like same thing with Assassin's Creed. There's so many Assassin's Creed games because I didn't get around to playing the first few. It's like, I don't feel like going back and playing all of them.
I don't like Assassin's Creed. I like the God of War games.
Yeah.
That's just me. This looks very Zelda-ish.
Well, Zelda, I don't believe is an RPG. Zelda's just an action game. But yeah, this
Just
has
giving
like
me Zelda vibes.
Yeah, and I know there were like RPG games before, like turn-based RPG games before Final Fantasy, but I think this is the one that really came up with this kind of conventional interface where you have your party. One's like a mage, one's a warrior and an archer, and you have all the different stats and like this kind of menu, this kind of template. So I think it was the first game to really, or turn-based RPG game to really kind of apply this the right way.
Yeah, and then other games would copy that style of fighting. Like Legend of Legaia was one on PS1.
Now,
a lot of other ones.
Zelda 2, I actually, like, I had this game like an Animal Crossing because you could unlock all the games. I actually played very far into this game, almost to the end of the game. I wasn't able to beat it. It was pretty difficult, but I believe Zelda 2 actually is technically an RPG because it does have a level up system. The first Zelda game doesn't. But like this is considered less successful than the first game critically and commercially. So fans typically, this is one of the least like Zelda games in the franchise. But someone who didn't grow up with these older games, it was actually a lot easier to get into than the first Zelda game. I guess one of the reasons is it was more intuitive of where you're supposed to go. The first Zelda game was very kind of cryptic and arbitrary.
The legend of Zelda continues. Defeat your enemies, save the kingdom, use your sword. I cannot help you.
Find the crystals. Rescue the princess.
Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link.
Looks like he was dancing.
And I actually own an unopened Zelda 2 cartridge that's in the box. So that's probably the most valuable gaming item that I own.
Ghostbusters 2
I think it's worth like close to $1,000.
That's cool.
I used to get confused. I used to think that the main character was Zelda, but not the princess.
Yeah, because
I never played it.
Like all the kids that played Super Smash Brothers, where they tell you the names of the characters, all the kids that think that like Link's name is Zelda, you get to be like, actually, his name's Link. How do you not know that? You dumb fuck.
It's also kind of like, I mean, it's one of those things that a lot of people get confused on. Like, there are people that always thought Frankenstein was the name of the monster because it's
they're
the one thing you think of.
Not knowing
because they don't know the
automatically
story.
means you're dumbass.
You're dumb.
Yeah, Shabisky.
You're dumb.
And this is the first Mario game I played. You had Super Mario Advance, and like I had this for the Game Boy Advance, and it was one of the first GBA games that I owned.
I'm here. It's
No one else dares. This time Mario puffs up power wherever he goes, so he's bigger and badder than ever before.
And there's Mouser.
Creatures like these, you've never had an adventure like this. It's everything you dreamed of and worlds more. It's Super Mario 2, only from
Super Mario.
believe this Mario 2 was released in '88. So I'm trying to recall what I remember from like looking up these games initially.
I know y'all aren't paying attention.
People
And then
in the chat are
Really
supposed to be
weird
telling me
fucking
whether
one.
I'm right or not.
And then in 1992, that's when the great masterpiece that is the Super Mario Brothers movie comes out.
Missy,
Or
yell at him.
93, one of those.
Yell at
This
Gene,
is,
Missy.
I'm trying to figure out what the fuck this noise is.
I think it's from Origin.
No, like it's by my window. It almost sounds like there's 50 moths outside of my window trying to like bang because they can see the black light or something.
It's a
I
Drunken
can
Crow.
hear, like,
He's
the
over
wind.
there.
It's Drunken
It's
Crow.
Drunken Crow. He's trying to get in.
Crow, stop freaking me out. But no, for real. I can hear like the buzzing of like the flapping of the wings. That's freaking me out.
Eat it.
Now-
Whatever it is, eat it.
You eat it. Lend me Jack. Let me have him come over here and he can eat it.
Now, this was another iconic game for the NES. One major appeal of the game was that you could get out of the vehicle whenever you wanted. So there were things that you can only do with the character on foot, and then there are things that you needed the vehicle for. So pretty much once you got far enough, you needed the vehicle to progress. If you left it farther back, you had to get it. So that's one way to keep you from going 4 levels ahead without the tank. But I mean, that was kind of a cool, like, what was the one game? Lost Planet, where you always had the mech, and you could play on foot, and it was like a cover-based shooter on foot, but then you could get into the mech, and you always had the mech available. So I guess this is one of the first games that really had that option where you could kind of like hop in and out of video games like at a whim.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, 88. I was right. So, Pink's got quite the odd architecture and everything. Let's see if I can find a part of the game where...
Are you getting copyright for this music?
I don't think so. For some reason, it's usually like commercials and trailers to like movies and TV shows that you have to worry about. Usually video games doesn't cause a lot of issues.
Okay.
Okay, so here you are on foot.
Yeah, see, Zelda vibe.
What, do you just think all video game characters look the same? They all look like Zelda?
No, just
Or they
when
all
it's
look
set
like
up like this, it looks like Zelda.
It's racist.
Yeah. Oh,
know.
now, this
I'm a
game,
Zeldaist.
it's based on the Tim Burton game, so it is a movie license game, so it's probably one of the best movie license games of all time. I actually got really far into this game, so this was one when I was like collecting NES games when I was in like middle school and high school. I popped this in, tried it out, and I actually played it for like hours on end, and I think this game, I believe it did have a save feature. It had a password feature. But it was actually a pretty decent side-scroller that I think has aged pretty well. And I believe it's probably released in '89 because I know the Tim Burton film was released in '89.
No, you were.
Oh,
It just showed the copyright year on the screen.
What?
It just said the copyright year on the screen, so you just read it.
19. Well, it just popped up now.
It did a second ago, too.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
I didn't
pay
see it.
I think Gene is cheating.
Gene's cheating on us. Is that why you left for a week, Gene?
Yep.
You fucking other people.
Did you guys share out the stream? I only got 7 people watching.
I did. I shared it out twice.
Don't tell us.
I
what
just
to
went
do.
on the wood. I just went on the wood stream and told them to come here.
Game, like, I believe
That's
there's...
not gonna go over too well. I'm just gonna let you know that now.
Yeah,
Pim does it every now and then, so it's my fair game.
The game, there's like 3 different weapons. Oh, and Ninja Gaiden just popped up. I I forgot to include those games.
You
Gotta talk
forgot?
about that.
What a jerk. Gene's a jerk, guys. You forgot.
But I want to see him use the weapons. I know there's a batarang. One was like a little like RC explosive drone. And I believe one's just like a straight up like this three-way like fire blast thing. God, this guy isn't using any weapons. Oh, and you could do the weird like Ninja Gaiden wall jump. There we go. See, you got the Batawing, the Batarangs. But yeah, there was like a Ninja Gaiden side-scroller trilogy for the NES, and I know that they had like cutscenes in them. So they were known for being very innovative when it came to being some of the earliest games with like cutscenes that helped support the narrative. See, there's the weird fireball or Mayha wave.
Oh.
Okay, so here's Castlevania 3. Now, the Castlevania anime on Netflix is actually based... What are you doing, Shab?
Nothing.
But
just
Castlevania anime is actually based around the third Castlevania game. So you play as Trevor Belmont instead of Simon Belmont, and I believe it's a prequel to the first two Castlevania games. And Sypha, who's the wizard in the show, you play as her in this game. And there's Alucard, which is Dracula spelled backwards, and he's the guy you play as in Sympathy of the Night. Or Sympathy. My God, I can't talk tonight.
Wow, what a dumb fuck. Can't even talk.
Well, usually at the end of the day, my medicine starts to wean off, and I start to slur my...
Blame your medicine.
Yeah.
What would your medicine ever do?
You said...
I blame your medicine too for whatever I mess up.
There was a game released after Castlevania 4 called Castlevania like Rendezvous of Blood or Dracula X or whatever. And that's considered to be the most difficult Castlevania game ever released. But I think this is considered the second most difficult Castlevania game. And it's definitely the most difficult one out of the original trilogy. And this is another guy you could play as. He wasn't in the anime or the show. I think his name's Grant or something, and I guess his abilities, he can climb on walls.
Should I play Castlevania, Gene?
Yeah.
Naked? Gene?
Yes.
Yeah? This is making me want to play, actually, Pokemon Yellow.
And there's Alucard.
I just want to play some Pokemon Yellow.
Is that
Yeah,
like
so I guess, yeah, you had the Mario Brothers trilogy, you had the Castlevania trilogy, and the Ninja Gaiden trilogies. I guess those were the three big NES trilogies.
You're lying.
Here you have Nintendo Power. So I believe Nintendo Power originated in 1988 as well. And like I said, making things more appealing for a Western audience is a way to provide people with reference material like tips on games and kind of a reference of what games are actually worth owning and which games you should probably avoid.
Yeah,
with Nintendo
1988. So here's the hotline.
Their source of information,
or not
Nintendo
hotline.
Power. Your direct connection to the pros for better play, smarter selection.
Gene, you look hot
Check
today.
out Nintendo Power. It gives you all the game info you need before you buy, so you never make a mistake. And video maps really help your play. Play better, choose smarter. With Nintendo Power.
The official magazine of video mastery. For ordering information, call now or visit your Nintendo dealer.
And I believe Nintendo Power, it discontinued. God, what's it doing? It's acting out again. But it discontinued just a few years ago. I believe it was like in like 2010 or 2011 where they stopped publishing.
Within Nintendo headquarters, expert
There you
game
go.
counselors. Within Nintendo.
It's another Nintendo Power commercial. God, now we're down to 5 viewers. Where are all the viewers, people?
Where's all the viewers, people?
I'm blaming Shabisky.
What'd I do? I'm the greatest. Didn't you realize?
They left because Missy is no longer on screen.
She ran away. You scared her away, Gene.
And we're back.
Yeah, and I'm thinking this Sunday I'll probably try to stream at 9, and I'll try to take my medication later in the day, so that way I'll be much more alert.
What a druggie you are.
Likely excuse.
Yeah, druggie.
Don't ask me. Call for Nintendo Power. Operators are standing by and the call is free. Subscribe now and get the
Look
first
at all the Marios.
I like how they had a bunch of Marios.
God, this is so sexist.
Answering the phone.
Whoa, flying spaghetti. I guess that's where the flying spaghetti monster idea came from. They watched that and they're like, this looks like an idea for a new god.
So here we go, the Nintendo Tip Hotline. So they charged like $10 a minute. And this is like advertised on their manuals and Nintendo Power. And yeah, so I think a lot of parents are probably really angry over their kids utilizing this.
Little Jimmy, why do we have an over $800 phone bill? What is this?
You gotta go! Ah.
Hey kids, power up your score on Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario Brothers 2. Call the Power Phone for Nintendo players. Get high-scoring tips and find out how you can get a free Super Power Patch. Call 1-900-909-3500.
They don't know how to say his
Don't
name.
let
They say
Zelda
Mario.
down.
Mario.
Call the Power Phone. Dial 1-900-909-3500. Power up your game. Destroy Ganon and get a free Super Power Patch. Call the Power Phone for Nintendo players. Get the secret clues and tips on Punch-Out, Contra, Gauntlet, Kung Fu, Donkey Kong, Double Dragon, and more. Call now.
Double Dragon.
Yeah. They'll teach you how to the right punch, the right combo to take down Mike Tyson.
That's neat. I'm gonna call them right now.
We're gonna play poker when we meet up, Shabs.
Play what?
Have you ever heard of the Nintendo World Championship?
No.
So I believe they had another one of these like a few years ago. So I think they're doing it like every 25 years. So they've done it twice. So the first one was in 1990, and I believe it was 3 games. It was Mario Brothers, Tetris, and I think Rad Racer. And
I think you mean Mario Brothers, not Mario. It's Mario.
It's Mario.
Yeah, but here's the commercial to the.
I'm the Nintendo King! Ha! I'm the Nintendo Queen.
Now inside specially marked bags.
Girls don't play
and
video
Oreo
games.
cookies, there's a game card and a chance to win one of 10 trips to watch the Nintendo World Championships.
Game card?
Throw away all the Oreos. Let's look through them.
To see if you win a free trip.
Yeah,
simply
so they
flash the game
gave
card.
these game cartridges away, and there's only like a handful of them that were ever released, and they all go for thousands of dollars on eBay.
Or for a free card, write game card request box 9066, Clinton, Iowa 52736.
I wonder what
Chips
happened to
ahoy.
those game cards. More cookies, sir?
Oh God, get it?
Yeah.
A dog can't do that.
Yeah, you can. You did.
Live from Universal Studios Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Terry Lee Torok.
Yeah.
You ready?
Yeah.
I don't get this at home. Welcome to Universal Studios Hollywood.
Thank you.
This is the playing field of the future. The unprecedented 1990 Nintendo
Oh,
World
damn.
Oh my
Championship.
God,
Plus,
this is so
it was the year
dated.
that began back March 7th, 1990. The date. That was the day when 11 semi-truck trailers unleashed
This was 30 years ago, and it feels like it's 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Incredible moment at that. Traveling coast to coast across the country.
Yeah, this is when like no one over the age of like 12 played video games.
It wasn't until Resident Evil came out that people were like, "Oh shit, this is crazy."
Yep. So here's the Nintendo World Championship cartridges. Now the gold one was provided in like a giveaway in Nintendo Power, and there was only like 12 of them that were sent out. But both of these are worth like tens of thousands of dollars. So these are some of the most like valuable games out there.
Man, if they have those just lying around in a good year, because for some reason I have a feeling that maybe some of these are lounging around in a good year wherever, and people will be like, "Whoa, this is worth a lot. I'm taking it."
Oh, and this kid, was it Wesley from the Wizard?
Goodwill, not Goodyear.
Which was a movie that came out that pretty much just to advertise Mario Brothers 3. So I believe the movie was released in '89 as well. But the Power Glove had these weird, like pretty much you put these sensors on the screen and it had these like motion controls, and it was known for being very finicky and everything. Didn't really work out well. But it's one of the more iconic peripherals for the system.
You know what? They said the same thing about your mom.
Oh,
damn.
You just got told, Gene.
Now we're down to 4 viewers.
Why'd you do that?
The audio's all messed up.
Why
in
does
this
subject
commercial.
matter?
This looks like a cool
Missy,
game.
the audience missed you. When you left, the audience left.
I'm back
And
now.
then Mario Brothers 3. So this is considered one of the best games for the system critically. It's one of the most commercially successful games of all time. It's considered one of the best Mario games. So it's typically compared to like Mario 64 and Super Mario World as like one of the contenders for the best Mario games released within the franchise. And it's considered one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time. And
I never liked that one.
yeah,
It's Mario.
And I played through this one as well on the GBA, and I had like the e-reader, so they sold a bunch of cards, and you could like scan items in the game using e-reader cards for the Game Boy.
Mm.
新しい冒険が今始まろうとしている。
Oh, now we're back up to 7. And you had like the Hammer Bros suit, you had the Fire Flower, you had the Frog suit, you had the like Raccoon
like
Tail
that
and the
one.
Tanuki suit. Yeah, and you had all the Koopa kids.
僕らはマリオと強くなる。
I remember that like at the end of the game there are tanks. So
Why?
yeah, Bowser actually has like
This is probably where your obsession from.
Critical
Your
Fantasy game.
obsession
Super
with
Mario
tanks
Brothers.
comes from. There we go.
Fine game.
All you had to do was ask. Super Mario Brothers 3 from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
Damn.
I believe it was either '89 or 1990 when Mario Brothers 3 came out.
Mario 3.
Oh, and I hated those.
Mario 3.
I think they were called Big Bertha. Those fish, they'd kill you in one gulp.
Peligros y obstáculos.
It's them and the Lakitus, the guys that were in the clouds that threw the what is it, the spinies or the spinnies at you.
Big
Those are the
Bertha
two.
Todos
was
los
the
enemigos del reino de los hongos y salvaremos a la princesa.
Super Mario 3 exige la garantía y servicio de ese hito. Nintendo.
Why is the commercial in Spanish?
in the Super Mario Brothers movie.
Oh, this is
the
in
big
Mexico.
the big black girl in the red suit in a Super Mario Brothers movie is supposed to be Big Bertha.
I remember that. Yeah, it was weird in the
Dance
movie.
with me.
In the movie they just took like random like terms for like different locations or items or characters and applied it to completely different like elements or entities in the film.
And it's funny because in the movie, a bomb is like this little toy, like plastic thing that they have to wind up. Oh my god, it was pathetic.
So, this is the most top-selling and critically revered games for the system. So, Mario Brothers is the top-selling game for with 40 million units. Then you have Duck Hunt. So I don't know if this is so these games sold separately outside of the Mario Duck Hunt hybrid cart. And I know that came with the system. So if that came with the system, then that means people still, if there were like tens of millions of units sold, there were 60 million units sold overall. That means people still purchased an additional 20 million Duck Hunt and 40 million Mario Brothers, even though they came with the console for some reason. Mario Brothers 3 sold 18 million units, Tetris 8 million, Mario Brothers 2 7.5 million, Zelda 6.5 million, Dr. Mario 4.9 million, Zelda 2 4.4 million, Excite Bike 4.2 million, and I actually played that in Animal Crossing as well. One thing I remember in Excite Bike, yeah, you could actually create your own like courses or your own. It had like a level editor, and then Golf 4 million. I'm guessing it's the golf game that had Mario on the cover. And then the most critically revered games for the system. So I went to like several different websites, took their top 10 games, and I put it in a generator to see what the average was. So it averaged out to Super Mario Brothers 3 is the most acclaimed game for the system. Then Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Then Blades of Steel, which is a hockey game. Contra.
Yeah.
River City Ransom. I don't know what that is. Dragon Warrior 4, which is a beat-em-up game. Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. Tecmo Super Brawl, or Super Bowl. So that's a football game. Dr. Mario, and then Kirby's Adventure.
Kirby.
Yeah, and I think Kirby's Adventure... Kirby originally came out on the Game Boy, so I believe Kirby's Adventure was released after its Game Boy installment. So here we go, the Game Boy, 1998. And it was discontinued in 2003. It sold around 118 million. So the NES sold around 60 million. This sold around 100, like almost double that. So it had over 1,000 games released overall. So here's some Game Boy commercials. Maybe we should play this 1.5 speed.
You should play with yourself, Gene.
But now you can have all the power and excitement of Nintendo right in the palm of your hand. Introducing
Whoa.
It's portable, it's in stereo, and its games are interchangeable.
Whoa.
With the outrageous new game.
Is that like, looks like RoboCop.
The revolutionary video link and blow your opponent away. Game Boy, only from Nintendo. Now you're playing with power.
This was not RoboCop Creep.
Yeah, and Mario Land, I know you couldn't save in the first Mario Land game. I played a little bit of Mario Land 1, but I played all the way through Mario Land 2. You could actually get in a plane, and the plane would actually shoot and fire projectiles, so it's kind of odd because usually Mario games don't have any mechanics like that.
Super Mario Land από την Nintendo. Ένα παιχνίδι γεμάτο ένταση και δράση. Πώς τα όλα.
And I believe, like, what was it? In Mario Land 1, it was Swaziland. But in Mario Land 2, the world that you're in is literally called Mario Land. And Wario was the villain. And then Mario Land 3 was Wario Land 1. And then there's, like, several Wario Land games. And I believe Mario Land 2 is the only game where, like, Wario was the villain. He's pretty much the protagonist or anti-hero in all the other games he's in. And it's one of the only... Mario Land 1 and 2 are some of the only Mario games where Bowser isn't the villain. What's your favorite Game Boy game, Shabisky?
Pokemon Yellow.
Yeah.
Games. Why, you want to kiss?
I'm thinking, TwoGun sent me the Game Boy emulator. Maybe I should try to play Mario Land 1 and 2 on my channel. I still need to do a Skyrim stream. Now, I know the Sega Game
My
Gear.
favorite Game Boy. My favorite Game Boy game was Earthworm Jim.
Wasn't that for Super Nintendo?
They had a Game Boy version.
Well, I know like the Sega Netgear, that was the competitor to the Game Boy. And one of the issues with the Sega Game Gear is that it had a major screen glare. So one of the things it marketed is it had better visuals and it had color. But the problem is that it used like more batteries, plus it depleted the batteries quicker than the Game Boy did. It was much larger than the Game Boy, so you might look at the original Game Boy and think it's clunky. The Game Gear was even less portable, and the screen had a very distracting glare where pretty much it wasn't worth having like the color component. Okay, these commercials are weird.
Why'd they... They had a statue of Mao holding a Game Boy.
Here comes Yoshi. And he's up against Goombas, Goobers, Goobuddies, and Piranha Plants in Nintendo's new stack and sandwich puzzle game called Yoshi. Match the creatures and wipe them out. Play alone or with a friend, but mix them and you won't stand a chance. It's challenging. It's overwhelming. Hey, Yoshi! It's Yoshi, the new puzzle game for Game Boy or NES. Now you're playing with power.
What's the reaction to new Donkey Kong Land?
Kirby lost big. No big hair, no big muscle.
Here's Kirby.
All Kirby's got is...
I remember the Kirby games. There was like
Kirby munches, it's fat and floats, saving glorious...
Like what was it? There was like a giant hamster dude named Rick that you could ride on, kind of like how Mario would ride on Yoshi. Now, actually, Link's Awakening, I played through this game, and it's actually one of my favorite Zelda games. I actually like Link's Awakening more than A Link to the Past. It's kind of like Majora's Mask had this weird, like, kind of uncanny aesthetic to it. Yeah, I need to play Link's Awakening on one of my streams.
Yeah.
Yeah, streaming's really, like, if you want to get back into gaming, streaming's a great way to encourage you to get through a game.
7-Up would like to give you a gift of holiday cheer. Just with 4 proofs of purchase from 2-liter bottles of any refreshing 7-Up product.
This has to do with video games.
I'm the bad guy.
Now, Wario, his first appearance was in Mario Land 2. Do you know what Waluigi's first appearance was in?
No.
Pokemon?
Mario Tennis, because they needed a partner for Wario.
Huh.
I always thought, like, as a kid, like, where the hell is he from? I never see him in any of the Mario games.
He was in, like, the show. I remember a show that had both of them in it. Like a cartoon.
Wait, he was in, like, he was in the Mario cartoon?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about Waluigi, like the evil, like Luigi's doppelganger.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no.
Humanly possible, but now you can have all the power and excitement of...
Obey me,
And I think we just saw this.
I am your master. Mario is your enemy.
The wicked imposter Wario has cast an evil spell over Mario Land.
Don't let Mario get the 6 golden coins. Don't let Mario...
Now, they call him, like, a Mario imposter. They never really explain where he's from. Like, is he related to Mario? Did he come from some weird portal?
This is the biggest, most dangerous, most challenging game
Mario shit him out.
Obey Wario.
I guess I'm overthinking the lore of
Don't fall under
Mario.
Wario's evil spell in Super Mario Land 2 on the Game Boy.
Yeah, I don't think anyone...
Gene's gonna be over here like... Gene will watch a zombie movie and be like, why are these people rising from the dead? They're dead. Like, what's going on? That doesn't make sense.
And here's Metroid 2. Now, do you know in, like, Metroid Zero Mission was like a remake of Metroid 1, and they had Samus's spaceship that you could go to, and it would like repair and recharge all your abilities and everything. So, but Metroid 2, I think, was the first Metroid game to have her iconic starship. And yeah, I've never played through Metroid 2. I should play through it during a stream. Up, and you got Pokemon. So now we're late into the 90s, so this shows you just how long the Game Boy's lifespan was.
Hey, little buddy, want to ride?
Okay, and actually, I don't think I'm going to play this, because on our private stream, I actually had to cut this out after it uploaded it, because it gave us a copyright strike. So,
So don't play it.
Yeah,
anything
yeah,
Pokemon,
Shabisky.
for some reason, Pokemon equates to your channel getting taken down.
Poor Gene. Getting discriminated against by Pokemon.
Brace yourself.
Oh, and then they had the Game Boy player for the Super NES, where you could play Game Boy games on your TV.
Play your Game Boy games on the Super NES in living color.
Isn't that a bit of...
Your own color combinations. Play all 350 Game Boy games. How does that strike you?
What a waste.
350. What do you mean, what a waste?
Why couldn't they just release it on the Sega or whatever, or the Nintendo? Like, why does it have to be like you can connect the Game Boy game to the actual thing? It's like, why not just release it?
What do you mean?
I don't know. The game that you want to play on your never mind.
Because then you'd have to buy the same game twice.
No, you just sell it on one of the consoles.
Well, the whole point is, if you own it for the Game Boy, you can play it on the TV. And what they probably should have done is they probably should have just released an adapter instead of having it connect to the Super Nintendo.
Absolutely.
Just another way to make money.
So, this thing's the PC Engine. I know that was the TurboGrafx 16. This is the best chart I could find. So I guess we should just ignore this component. But essentially, the NES and the Sega Master System were both like 8-bit systems. The Master System had somewhat better hardware, but it wasn't that significant. And it was released a little bit later, so the NES had like 86% of the sales for this particular generation. And in the end, Nintendo pretty much took the lead in the... I think this is the third generation of video games. But the Sega Master System was released a couple the NES was 85, so it was released a year after the NES was. And the SG-1000 was released in like 83, so this was released 3 years after the SG-1000. So as you could see, it was released a year later in Japan. So unlike all the other Sega games, it was actually released in the US first and then Japan second. So this is the successor to the SG-1000. And this sold 13 million, and the SG-1000 sold less than 1 million. And the SG-1000 only had around 100 games. This had like 3 times the amount of games.
Mm-hmm.
So the big marketing campaign here, so Sega liked to smear Nintendo. So like that's Nintendo Entertainment System. We're the Master System.
Sega challenges you with the
Oh, and maybe I should go back and that guy right there, before they had Sonic, because Sonic was on the Genesis, his name was Alex Kidd. So he was their big mascot before Sonic was.
Sega challenges you with the ultimate video game.
Yeah, Alex Kidd doesn't ring as well as Sonic.
With more accurate control.
Yeah, I believe he was in a couple games. I don't know if he had any releases for the Genesis.
Power-based 2 control pads, light phaser, and 2 great video games.
Okay, now we're up to 9 people.
Yeah, I loved it when this stuff happened, because around this time was when different game developers would be like, in our commercial, we're better than Nintendo because look, we have this, we have that. They don't. They always had unique ways to compete with the other ones.
I had a Sega Genesis.
What's that?
I had a Sega Genesis, so I think that's the one after this one.
Yeah, so I'm guessing Genesis was their third system. So there was the SG-1000, the Master System, and then the Genesis. So this is Alex Kidd. This was their Sonic before Sonic. Yeah, it kind of looks like a poor man's Mario. Or kind of has...
It looks like Mario if he had the head of a monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe punch stuff.
If this stuck and not Sonic, we would have had the Alex the Kid movie instead of the Sonic movie.
What do you think Christian would be instead of Sonic Chew?
It seems kind of...
Alex Chew?
Yeah, Alex Chew.
This seems very, very bland. Like, the level design seems very generic for a platformer. And like Mario, the enemies seemed like the way the world was designed and everything, it did have a very kind of like original and kind of bizarre like aesthetic and everything and atmosphere. Here, like all the enemies, yeah, it's just very boring, very vanilla, and
they look like freaking dinosaur or something like. And also the background and the layout, it just looks like a carbon copy of Mario's backgrounds and. Nothing really too distinct here.
But I mean, at least like Mario, he could like it was one of the first. He was Jumpman, so he was one of the first game characters that could jump. And Mario Brothers was one of the first like platformers that had like multiple screens. That was a like a screen scroller or a conventional side scroller, and so it makes sense that Mario's only ability really was to jump. Plus, Mario could get level ups where he could shoot fireballs and stuff like that. Like Mega Man and Samus had arm cannons. Like Kirby could eat people and steal their abilities. He just punches. So it's like if you're going to make some game character, why give them such a boring and generic attack?
And then they would eventually give him speed. And they would change his name and his identity and...
So it seems like Mario relies more on the y-axis. It seems like Alex Kidd relies more on the x-axis.
I like this.
Shabisky
I like this.
is more on the gay axis.
Shut up. I like this. I think it's better than Mario. And then he gets the old man at the end, dude. Awesome. He gets to have sex with the old man now. Fuck yeah,
Instead of Princess Peach, it's an old man.
Yeah, dude, this game's way better.
Oh, and this is another major IP, Phantasy Star. So if you know about the Dreamcast, like there were other online systems before the Dreamcast, but it was the first really successful like online interface that was applied to a system, and its big IP was Phantasy Star Online, which I never played, but I know so many people were really into it. But there was Phantasy Star. I believe there was like 2 Phantasy Star games for the Master System, and then there was a couple released for the Genesis. So I actually played like Phantasy Star 4 for the Genesis because I had the Genesis collection for the Xbox 360, which came with some of the Phantasy Star games. So I'd say I actually like them more than Final Fantasy. And one of the things that was interesting is when...
Was this like the precursor to Sailor Moon or something? Sailor Moon?
It's a JRPG, so it's like Dragon's Quest and it's like Final Fantasy. But it's kind of like Fire Emblem, where like if your characters die, they're dead for good. So in the Phantasy Star games, if one of the characters in your main party dies, they're gone. You can't revive them.
Oh well.
Yay, it has cool music.
No, and this doesn't look that good.
Oh, dude.
Okay, and now I do believe the ones for
Pokemon ripped this off.
Yeah, for the Genesis, you could see your character's attack, but like here, you don't get to see your character attack. So you have all the moves and their stats. And I know Earthbound for the Super Nintendo had that as well, and that's something that kind of deters me from a lot of like JRPGs. But I mean,
it's a blob.
Compared to anything we've seen on the NES, that does this does look pretty advanced and yeah, pretty fluid compared to like any of the kind of animations you see on its like competitor's platform.
This would have been interesting, sort of first person, if it was for like Doom or something.
So anyway, Genesis released in 1988 in Japan, 1989 in the US. So the big marketing campaign is it's 16-bit. Sega does what Nintendo owns. So Nintendo's 8-bit, Sega's 16-bit. And before, people didn't really pay much attention to the hardware or the specs. I guess this was the point where it's like, hey, my console has an extra 2 gigabytes of RAM or whatever, or an extra few megabytes of RAM, so that automatically makes it superior. So this is the point in the industry where people really loved obsessing over like hardware capability and everything. And so it sold like 30 million units. I believe the Super Nintendo sold around 40 or I think it sold like 50 million units.
I think
Yeah.
the last list thing, I think it said 49.
So it fared better compared to the Master System. So like the Master System sold only like what did it say previously? It sold like 10 million units, and the NES sold like 60 million.
Yeah, something like that. Or something, a really big difference.
Okay, so the top selling games: Sonic the Hedgehog, 15 million. Sonic the Hedgehog sequel, 6 million. Disney's Aladdin. Now, I know Disney, we'll get into that in a second, but the Aladdin version was known for being a lot superior to the NES version, or the version for the Genesis, and Aladdin had like a sword in it. So the NES version, or the SNES version, was known for being a more pampered and like button down version. But Sonic the Hedgehog 3, 4 million, NBA Jam, 1.9 million, Mortal Kombat 2, 1.78 million, Street Fighter 2, 1.65 million, Altered Beast, 1.4 million, Mortal Kombat 3, 1.2 million, and Jurassic Park, 1 million.
You don't have to keep. We can read it. Gene.
Why do you? Why do you? Gene, you keep.
Hey, it's improv. I'm doing stuff as I'm going along.
You keep adding a T. You do that a lot. You say Jurassic.
Jurassic.
Nah,
Jurassic
he
Park.
said Jurassic, didn't
It's
he?
kind of hard not to add the T when you transition to the Park version. Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park.
I've never heard of Vector Man.
Yeah, apparently that's one of the more revered games for the system. And then Toe Jam and Earl.
I played Toe Jam and Earl. I played Street Fighter. I liked Eternal Champions better than I liked Mortal Kombat. And then I had Turok and the Tasmanian Devil game.
You had Turok.
Jersey Devil.
Turok or Turok 2. One of the Turok.
Wasn't that for Nintendo 64?
I might be confusing that. Yeah, you're right.
And so it was, late in the
There was some other game with dinosaurs we had for the Genesis. I don't remember what. It's something with dinosaurs. Might have been the Jurassic Park one. And that's why I'm thinking
Jurassic Gene.
Brain drain
and I was playing Turok recently for Steam, and I think Turok has aged better than GoldenEye.
Turok literally used to scare the shit out of me.
The maker looked down and was not
I was
pleased
like
with
a
the result
baby.
and said, "This is not good." And so it
Back
was.
in the day.
He brought forth Genesis, a system with twice the power, twice the intelligence, twice the challenge, twice the fun. Only a chosen few were called forth to experience this new dimension of high-definition graphics.
Okay, so now we're starting to see that, like, prior to this, every commercial depicts like gamers as like your stereotypical dorks. So now we're trying to see them. They're kind of humanizing gamers a little bit more.
And studio sound. And the makers saw what he had done and said,
You're saying he doesn't look like a dork?
That's not bad.
Well, that kid
discovered Genesis, and your world
all
will
kind
never be the same.
I just love how
I
it
think
was like
most of them just
back
look
in the
like
day.
generic kids.
Yeah, back then everybody dressed dorky. It was normal.
I mean, it was the 90s. That was when guys started letting their hair grow out and get all greasy and such. For whatever reason.
16-bit arcade. The era of the bowl cut.
16-bit sports action.
Yeah, Gene Dance.
That's when Michael Jackson.
Gene Dance.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley
Come on,
free,
Gene.
Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free. What Nintendo? Buy a 16-bit Genesis system between now and October.
Yeah, Sega's for the cool kids.
Damn.
You don't want to be a loser.
Genesis
like all
does
those
what
8-bit
Nintendo
kids.
don't.
Why are you playing
Get it,
Nintendo?
Shabisky?
Don't you know that my console is 16-bit? Yours is
They have
only
Michael
15 and a
Jackson
half. Motherfucker.
Smooth criminal.
Here's Michael Jackson.
He's a smooth criminal.
I believe Michael Jackson's Moonwalker was one of the launch titles for the Genesis.
Bad movie, by the way.
I've never seen the film.
Ugh.
You sure you could play this, G?
I don't think you can play this, Gene.
Michael Jackson's Moonwalker video game, only on the Genesis system
I don't
by
think
Sega.
this is allowed.
Yeah, that's copyrighted music, Gene.
I think you're gonna get in trouble.
Gonna get in trouble, Gene.
Hopefully I don't. Usually if it's just a few seconds worth of copyrighted content, they give you the option to just like edit it out of the video.
That was more than a few seconds.
I'm
Hey
Gene.
guys, you're the first serious gamer I've seen all morning. Check this out, brand new 16.
So
I
now
remember this.
the Super Nintendo came out like a year after the Genesis, so it actually had more advanced hardware. The only thing the Genesis had over the Super Nintendo was it had a slightly more powerful processor. So they coined a term called blast processing to be like, okay, so now we're not 16-bit because the Super Nintendo is also 16-bit. So we got blast processing. Nintendo doesn't have blast processing. That's what makes Sonic go so fast. You can't do this on Nintendo.
Mario World. Wow! What's this one? Oh, this is a Sonic the Hedgehog from Sega Genesis. Hey, look at these radical colors, huh? Wow, Sonic's fast too. No, over here.
I
like Genesis, and it costs.
I memorized like every fucking map in that game.
What's Sonic?
Mm-hmm.
I never got into Sonic. I was kind of deterred by Sonic because, growing up in like the 2000s, it's pretty much Chris-Chan-esque kind of people who are into Sonic.
Well, yeah.
Wait, kid, that game.
There's this one kid. His name was Chris. I just realized that. But there was a kid in my elementary school who was into Sonic, and he was obsessed with it. And
a huge kick out of it.
he was just this weird kid. Well, he would sit there and if he didn't like other kids, he would compare them to like Dr. Eggman and stuff like that.
God.
So I don't know.
That's sad.
For some reason, a lot of really odd, socially awkward kids are really into Sonic for some reason.
So you're saying,
Shabisky.
so you're saying that you like Sonic, Gene?
More action,
No,
more speed.
I,
Sega Genesis.
Never played any of the Sonic games.
Well, you're
So a lot
socially
more
awkward.
Oh, thank you.
I'm Gene.
I'm Gene.
Gotta go.
Danita Stokes, president of HAG.
It's bad enough that
Ugh.
Sega Genesis has the most 16-bit games, but this new Sonic the Hedgehog, oh,
This commercial is trying to be like transphobic.
They did a lot of.
Well,
well, what's the hurry, mister?
they're trying to delegitimize this person because it's not an actual woman.
Damn, look how edgy Sonic is.
Now, get Sonic.
And look, his arms are tan. They're not blue. It's a very important detail.
System at its new price of $149.99.
And his belly is tan. What is that saying, Shabisky?
I don't think it's necessarily transphobic. I think just men dressing up as...
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That was just a thing back then. It's like, oh, I'm a man, but I'm a woman. They weren't... I mean, trans... You know what? Never mind. We're not going to go on a tangent. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
Now, this is 88, so they're still making NES games at the time. So, like, Mario Brothers 3 was 88, and Dracula 3 was 88. Or no, I think Mario Brothers 3 was 89, and Mario Brothers 2 was 88. But
88.
Altered Beast was one of the launch titles for the Genesis.
Why is his head so small?
Why is your head so small?
Don't make fun of me. No, seriously, his head is smaller than
like
the proportions of his body would indicate.
Like I think that's purposive because I think it's probably a joke because he gets the power up and his body gets bigger, but his head stays the same size.
Lame.
That's cool. He turns into a dragon. And that looks like Fester from Adam's Family.
Welcome to your doom, Shabisky.
Whoa. These 16-bit sound effects.
Jesus Christ.
That was
really loud. Turn it down, Gene. I'm Gene.
I want to kiss Gene sometimes.
I want to make him deaf.
Gene, kiss me.
And here's Ghouls and Ghosts. So I think this was an exclusive. Older people in the chat, was this for Super Nintendo? I think they may have released a variation. Oh, this says Nintendo Complete.
Oh, there you go. You answered your own question.
Yeah, Gene, idiot. Idiot.
Oh, and it's Capcom, the developer of Resident Evil and Mega Man. And I do know this game is notorious for like its ending. It pretty much has you, it tells you have to replay the game again. So the game's known for being like really difficult. And the ending pretty much tells you that you have to play the game again to get the true ending. And then the real ending is just a wall of text or something like that. So it's known for having one of the worst conclusions of any video game.
That's a brilliant troll.
Yeah, so if he takes enough damage, he loses his armor and he runs around his underpants.
Wow. Captain Underpants. Sir Underpants, at least, in this context. Wow, that's so creative. An eyeball in a cloud. Woo!
Well, this game looks like it's got some like creative art design and everything.
Looks like Shabisky did it or something.
What do you think? Does this game look fun, Shabisky? It looks like it's got some pretty like dynamic like gameplay and action for like what you typically see of
I probably enjoyed it as a kid. I played Earthworm Jim when I was a kid and liked it and stuff.
Yeah, but I think because
we got Pigman.
Yeah, the Yeah, because the Genesis came out a couple years before the SNES, I believe. Ghouls and Ghosts was a launch title for the Genesis. I think they released a version for the Super Nintendo. Maybe I should have done better research before the the stream.
I'm a dick. I'm addicted.
And here's Golden
to
Axe.
you.
I'm addicted to you.
I believe this is another Sega exclusive. Yeah, so they had Golden Axe, Altered Beasts, was it Alex Kidd and Sonic? Who are some of the other like Sega characters? You have
Shabisky,
Shamu and Bayonetta, some of the more modern ones.
Man, these games are really bad at creating heads in proportion to the body size.
See what the chat's up to.
This game is epic.
Well, what system did you prefer, Shabs? Nintendo or Sega?
I never had Sega. I love Nintendo. Nintendo's the greatest.
Which Nintendo did you own?
GameCube and Nintendo 64, and they're both the greatest.
Up here's Toe Jam and Earl.
Oh, Monty's here.
We're getting in the 90s.
Monty's here.
Monty's in the chat?
Here. Yeah.
Where's Monty?
The Montourage.
Oh. Wow, Monty's actually watching my content.
Yeah. He says you're cute.
Don't get too excited, Gene. He probably only
What?
stopped by inside one comment. He's probably still not there.
God, you're
Your
so
ego is
mean,
going
Missy.
Just calm it down a little
Guys,
bit. Okay?
guys, everybody help with my goal that's down here. My goal that's down here.
One of the big YouTubers that I watch because they're awesome. They're on my stream, and then Missy's got to be all negative. To be all like emotionally abusive and like
I am
discount my
fucking
joy.
miserable, and I told you that
Oh.
before I fucking got here.
It's the blue hair dye.
She's gonna beat you up.
No, it's not the blue hair dye. Not blue hair dye.
So
at all.
So Missy, what's the backstory? Like why? Like, are they from some other dimension? Are they created in a laboratory?
I don't fucking remember. I just remember playing the game with my
Are they
little brother.
aliens?
Yeah, some sort of alien.
That looks like a belly that came off of the body and became sentient. And the other one looks like Vas deferens if they became sentient.
Okay, you know what game this kind of looks like? So I actually own an Atari Jaguar. And one of the games I own for it is called, it's like Penguin Baseball something. And it reminds me of that weird, like, penguin game for the Atari Jaguar. It's called, like, Penguin Baseball Batman or something. I'll look it up.
Are they also ripping off Bill and Ted or Doctor Who? Is that the TARDIS?
So. Oh, it's...
Missy, you played this game. Tell us, how does it work? What's the
I don't
gameplay?
remember.
You don't remember?
I played this like 4 or 5 times with my little brother.
So it was mainly your little brother who played it.
Basically. It was me just hanging out with my little brother, playing what he wanted to. I wasn't very good at the fucking thing.
God,
I think you can probably Google it. I remember we had to find some shit. There was some digging involved.
Yeah, you go places, defeat enemies, find stuff, go to another location, do some stuff, and then go to the next location.
But there was like
Okay.
digging involved.
Wow.
You're an
Oh.
alien. Like
The game I'm thinking of is called Attack of the Mutant Penguins.
That sounds lame.
Yeah.
Attack
Gene,
of
do you
the
look-
Flying Spaghetti People.
Gene, do you think I look sexy today?
No.
Yeah? Thanks, Gene.
Okay, so this was the one that was included like for the Xbox 360. There's like a Genesis compilation disc, and this one you can actually see the characters attack.
I'll attack you, Gene. Beat your fucking ass, Gene.
Yeah, so I'm guessing these games had some pretty decent narratives for the time. And I think it's like the Super Nintendo and Genesis where games start to have more fleshed out stories with, was it like Illusions of Gaia or
I know
what's the
when I
game
was
called?
like Eternal Champions, every character had this crazy backstory because it was like they were all taken from like different parts of the world and time and brought together, and they had to fight for their freedom. And you got this like crazy backstory for each one of them. And then each one had their own like backgrounds that they fought in, and it was part of like their own world and shit.
You're
Yeah,
lying.
what is it? Chrono Trigger? Was that one of the other big like RPGs for the Super Nintendo? And I believe like Final Fantasy 3.
There was Chrono Cross.
Chrono Cross. I think that's what I'm thinking of. And then Final Fantasy 3, wasn't that technically like Final Fantasy 4 or 5? Because Final Fantasy 7 for the PlayStation came out, and it turned out that like 3 of the Final Fantasy games were exclusively released in Japan. So Final Fantasy 3 was like Final Fantasy 4 or Final Fantasy 5 or something. Yeah, there's a lot of text in this game. Remember when games made you read, Shabisky?
That's dumb. Reading's dumb.
And here's Vector Man.
Only people with
the
dumb
game.
bookshelves.
So this is apparently one of the more like critically revered games for the system.
A game I've never heard of.
Yeah. Huh.
That is really strange.
Weird abstract art design and everything.
I could probably see why it would be acclaimed when it was released the time it was, just because it seems a little different, just based on the character
Monty,
design.
Like, Missy's always talking shit. Like, I have Missy on every week, and she's always verbally abusing me.
Because you torture me for 3 hours once a week.
I think it's the blue hair dye, because women, once they dye their hair some odd color, then they get all unhinged or something. Damn. Women with like blue and pink and purple hair, that's how you know you're in trouble at that point.
I'm unhinged.
That's racist, Gene.
But anyway, I can see why this was probably critically acclaimed when it came out, but this does not look like something that would continue on a trend.
TwoGun's flaked on me, and Raisin Girl. We need more older people in here, because I didn't grow up with these games. We need older people here that grew up with them that can talk about how...
You're too young. You're too young to even be the host of this. Get out of here, Gene.
Well, everyone wants to cover Nintendo versus Sega, and it's like I didn't grow up with these damn games.
Young.
I'm Gene.
I'm Gene. I'm a youngin. TwoGuns is in the fucking chat, and he said he didn't want to come on.
Well, he's busy.
Well, you didn't want to hang out
I
with
need
me.
TwoGuns or Red Eye or Raisin Girl. I need one of the old farts in the audience to come in who grew up playing these games, so they can come in and talk about how iconic and revolutionary these games were when it came to like shaping their childhood. Oh, you're busy on a Friday night, TwoGuns?
He was busy. He's a busy guy. Guys, everybody watching, help me with this computer goal down here. We need to get farther on the goal.
I can totally see why that was probably a really well-reviewed game when it came out, just by the graphics and such.
And such?
And such, I'm Gene.
Yeah. And
well,
graphics and such.
The Super Nintendo, so 49 million units. So what was it? The Genesis sold 30 million. So this sold around like 20 million units more. Released 2 years later, just continued in 2003, and it had around 17,000 games. So has around like 600 more games than the Genesis does. So here's comparison of the hardware. So like I said, the processor was really the only thing that the Genesis had an edge over the SNES in regards to. So it pretty much had to... So seems like its processor was 2 times as powerful. So they came up with like the blast processing gimmick to get another like marketing edge over Nintendo. And here are the top-selling games compared to some of the more revered games. And Super Metroid apparently is the most critically successful game for the console. And I actually played Super Metroid all the way through. Star Fox, I'm a big fan of Star Fox 64. I played that game like a million times. I owned the original Star Fox. The game hasn't aged well.
You haven't aged
as
well.
we'll get to later, like the Genesis came out with all these add-ons. It came out with like the 32X and the Sega CD. And what Nintendo did is it had like an FX chip, an expansion chip that it installed in the games itself, so you didn't have to buy any add-ons, and allowed you to play more advanced games like Star Fox. And then Yoshi's Island, I had that for the Game Boy Advance, and Donkey Kong Country I had for the Game Boy Advance. And I remember when GameStop, you could still buy Super Nintendo games. I thought Donkey Kong Country was a GBA game. Same thing with Super Mario World. So I remember going to like GameStop and seeing all these like cartridges, like Link to the Past and so forth. And my mind was blown. It's like, wow, these games that I always thought that like were games that I grew up with came out like a generation before me on some other platform.
Introducing the next generation from Nintendo. New Super Mario World, created especially for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It's a bit more exciting, a bit more challenging, a bit more graphic, a bit more colorful, a bit more realistic.
Have you ever played Super Mario World, Shabisky?
A bit more enemies, a bit more friends, a bit more sound, a bit hotter, a bit cooler, a bit weird, a bit more revolutionary, a bit more Mario, a bit more of what you want. It's 16-bit, and it's yours only if you get new Super Nintendo. Now you're playing with power, superpower.
And here's F-Zero. So for the GameCube, I had F-Zero GX. Have you ever played that game? You guys aren't providing much dialogue. Oh, I just noticed Shabisky's.
No.
No. What about you, Origin? You're muted.
Oh yeah, sorry. I never I never said I never played Nintendo games. I played PlayStation.
Bring Monty in here. You probably played all these old things.
Yeah.
Shabisky.
Bring who in here?
Monty.
Well, he needs here. I need to invite people to the Discord.
Send Monty an invite. Make him come in.
Shabisky's been gone up for a bit.
He's probably pooping.
There's the Discord link. Join my Discord, and we'll drag you in. We need some people who have experience playing these.
For F-Zero, created for the new Super Nintendo.
Shabisky pooping is the last thing I want to think about.
You won't believe the power.
Yeah.
No, but what was like Captain Falcon's from F-Zero, and he's in Smash Bros. And yeah, I played F-Zero GX. I'd say that's one of the best looking games for the GameCube, and it had these like really corny, cheesy cutscenes. And I don't think they've made another F-Zero game since.
You won't believe the control. You won't believe the jumps, the curves.
Damn, this is like,
actually, I have played this. I have played this before, but with friends.
Wow, that's fast.
Ooh, it's kind of uncanny.
Generation from Nintendo. Now you're racing with power.
And here's Gradius. I think this is another launch title. Or Gradius 3. Wait, there's a Gradius 2?
Gradius 3. Konami.
Oh, Konami, the people who did
commercial
Metal Gear Solid.
Yeah, that commercial didn't really reveal much about the game.
Yeah.
Aww. What is this, Sim City? I've never played this.
You're a nerd.
I play Civilization. No.
Whoa. It's a midget. Or a kid.
That's sexist.
Shab, have you ever played any of the sim games?
Yeah.
Oh God, I
Link to
remember
the
this
Past.
commercial.
I had one of them on GameCube. I played a lot.
Now, in this Zelda game, Link has pink hair.
This
Well, then
commercial
why
is
do you keep
weird.
picking out people with different haircuts? Like that.
Well, it's weird that he just randomly has pink hair in the game, and they never explain why.
He's just like.
Okay, if they ever make a Zelda live-action movie, they need to make it like a musical. It needs to be. It needs to be like a West Side Story-esque kind of musical.
Gene is the only person who constantly says they should make this into a musical, guys. Everything should be made into a musical.
No, it needs to be like a full-on opera where there is no conventional dialogue. It's just nothing but vocals throughout the entire thing. It's going to be like Les Mis.
And you said the exact same thing about Mario Brothers. You're like, they should make that into a musical, guys.
Why not? That would be awesome.
Because it would be horrifying.
We need to get
That's
like a bunch
why.
of like Ray Harryhausen, like Jim Henson special effects. They need to make it like Labyrinth or The Neverending Story. They need to have like those weird, like practical, like puppet effects for like all the Koopas and Goombas. And like Mario and Luigi.
I think Labyrinth, no one should ever try to make another movie like that because it's the only one of its kind, and that kind of makes it all the more special.
No, they need to make like a Mario Brothers movie that has the same kind of like style as Labyrinth.
You have to do that.
And they need to get like they should have gotten like John, like after the Blues Brothers movie, they should have gotten like John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd to play Mario and Luigi.
Oh God.
Or was it Stan and Ollie or Penn and Teller? They need to get like one of those duos to play Mario and Luigi. But all those duos are now.
Penn and Teller do Mario and Luigi.
Yes.
That's too much of a. That is so gimmicky that it would just fail.
That's so
on all
silly.
fronts.
They're too. Like one of them is way bigger than the other one. It would be so weird.
That's the whole point. Mario's fat and Luigi's like long.
But
and
they're
lanky.
short. But they're short. They're not tall. And Penn is really.
I guess you gotta
tall.
suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, who's gonna be Luigi? It'd be really weird for the smaller guy to be him. Luigi's taller than yeah, they wouldn't work out, Gene. Dude, that was
Look,
awesome.
and the person playing Link there is a woman as well. So it's
Introducing the epic challenge
women.
only the Super Nintendo Entertainment System could make possible. Across endless land and water, you search. Deep into a parallel world.
Wow, this is a lame commercial.
Yeah.
Search. And just when you think you've
First person point of view. We don't know what we're even selling.
It's just
Kinda.
They should make a Zelda game in the first person perspective.
New Legend of Zelda. A link
I'll
to
touch
the
you
past.
in the
Now
first
you're
person
playing with power.
perspective, Gene.
Damn.
Yeah.
What's that one movie? Like, was it Hardcore Henry?
Oh God,
The whole movie was in
stand it.
a first person perspective. They need to make a Zelda movie like that, where it's a musical in the first person perspective, and Link's in the first person perspective, and it's like a musical, and it's shot like Birdman, where everything's
Why
edited
do you
to
want
make.
everything to be a musical though?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, out of all the people you would expect who would want everything to be musicals, like John Morgan is like the last person you'd think, yeah, I want everything to be a musical.
It's going to be like an opera, so it's nothing but singing and dancing, and it's all shot in the first person perspective, and it's going to be edited like Birdman, where it's made to look like it's all shot in one take.
Hardcore Henry gave me a headache after the first 20 minutes. I was like, okay, you just need to stop. Like, it gets really annoying after the first
And I'll
20
also
minutes
throw
of
some like
first person.
memento in there where it's all like all the scenes are edited out of order so no one can understand it. Will be the most disorienting like video game to film adaptation out there.
Go racing! It's Super Mario Kart Funny Car Madness! Only on Super NES. Turn the track into a giant mud pit. Or burn rubber on ice, wood, or asphalt. Mix it up with the big boys.
It's wild,
Now,
Shabisky.
one thing as a kid I was always confused about with like Mario Kart is it's like in Paper Mario and like all the Mario RPGs, it's kind of set in like a fantasy-esque kind of setting. And it's like, why do they have like these like modern like automobiles like in this weird racing game? And they have like trains and everything.
Maybe they like them.
It's not very consistent.
Mushrooms, banana peels, turtle shells. Dynamite! Check your rear view and make a neat test. Let's go into
But I don't know. In Mario Sunshine, he had like he had Flood and the weird robot thing, and there was like an airplane in the game. So I guess I don't know. Mario doesn't make any sense when it comes to their technology.
Shabisky doesn't make any sense now.
Stop it.
It's true.
Stop it. I'm the greatest. Don't ever talk
That's
that way
true.
about me. I'll beat your ass.
Man, how many
Star Fox on asses.
How many more games and consoles are there?
Well, we've only covered like 4 systems. Look at those advanced 3D visuals.
Whoa. There's an actual fox in the freaking helmet, bro.
Whoa, bro. All right, I'm gonna take a dab in the name of oh, I know.
Origin?
No, for all the dead squirrels that Missy killed. Okay,
Now,
those poor squirrelies. Okay.
Donkey Kong.
Fuck up my garden.
Donkey Kong Country was developed by Rare, and they're the same company that developed like Conker's Bad Fur Day and Perfect Dark and GoldenEye.
Yeah, I have those.
Oh, and Banjo-Kazooie, which I never liked.
Yeah.
Banjo-Kazooie. Everyone liked that game.
Well,
and
dumb.
Shabisky likes Banjo-Kazooie. And you like the one on Xbox that everyone hates.
I like all of them.
Oh my god.
I think they're all good.
You need to stop liking things that I don't like.
Beat your ass.
He's coming.
Where's TwoGun's at?
TwoGun says he's
Girl
busy
at?
laying in bed watching the stream to actually be on the stream.
You know, Raisin Girl could have come in now, but she's not coming in.
She's scared of me because I'm a big tough guy and I'll yell at her. That's what I do. I yell at her every time I see her.
Yeah, and
They
I
made
played
a
through
really bad.
Yeah, I played through the first 2 Donkey Kong Country games, and like I said, I went to a GameStop and I saw that they had Super Nintendo games, and I'm like, there's a Donkey Kong Country 3? Because that was before they released it on the GBA. And here's Super Metroid. I don't think this has audio.
Samus is back with this long-awaited sequel. Explore 6 huge areas and use all the familiar power-up weapons from the first Metroid. Walking around and
Marshall has
blasting your enemies won't be enough. This time you'll need a strategy.
an odd narration.
Fire it up with Super Metroid from Nintendo.
You have odd narration.
Okay, I gotta be honest. Like the Nintendo commercials do kind of suck.
Yeah.
They're pretty boring. I don't know if the person edited out like the audio, but this is what they aired on TV. I don't know. Nintendo needs to they probably should have reinvested in their who was in charge of their advertising.
I think
If Shabisky was in charge, if he was in charge of making the commercials, it would just show Shabisky be like, buy this game or I'll
Get
say your
it.
poop stinks.
And I actually think I don't think you can see it here, but I do think that there's blood like in the cover, like the scientists that are passed out. I think this is like one of the only like Nintendo games that's developed by Nintendo that has some level of blood in it.
That's neat.
Good. We need more blood.
And here's Earthbound.
And save the planet from hideous destruction. Venture through 8
Save the
mysterious
planet,
levels to
Gene.
gain power and put an end to the
And this is another guy I knew about him from Smash Bros. And not know what game he was from.
stellar threat. Beware. The ultimate test is the encounter with a powerful
Beware. A BIM? What? I'ma be.
in Earth from Nintendo.
You don't have to turn your camera on if you don't want to, Reason. I won't make you do that.
No, you have to turn your camera on. Okay? So you can bring in more viewers. Okay?
No, we don't. Yeah, you can just.
No, she has
We just need
to.
commentary from people who have more experience.
She
of,
has to.
Oh, Shab, stop making our guests feel uncomfortable.
What? Shut up. I can do whatever I want. Okay, I'm the greatest.
But I guess this is a comparison of the Aladdin version or the Genesis version of Aladdin versus the SNES version.
That's so weird.
Like string cheese and then real cheese block.
Cream cheese. So I'm guessing the Nintendo one is going to be better looking?
Actually, this is one of the variations like Mortal Kombat where the Genesis version had blood and the SNES version didn't. So here, the Aladdin version is considered the superior version.
Which one?
The one on the left.
I'm Gene.
I'm Gene.
Huh.
Yeah, so I think you have like bombs and you have a sword in the Genesis version. And I think you just like throw apples or something in the Super Nintendo version.
Huh.
Yeah, so
well, it's a little. I guess it all depends on your preference. I guess.
I think
'Cause
the
I can see
SNES.
how.
Yeah, the
I
SNES
can see how
version
you
is more
could like
tame.
whatever. And you can fight midgets in the Genesis one.
And here's Mortal Kombat Genesis versus SNES.
Whoa, the text on the Super Nintendo looked very cheap.
Now I know they changed the color of the blood in the Super Nintendo version to white, and the logic is they make it sweat. So
Okay, I prefer the Genesis one on this one
Yeah.
easily.
And I think they don't have the, what is it, the fatalities? Or the what do they call them? Fatalities, brutalities?
Yeah.
Fatality. Come on, Gene.
What? I actually haven't played any Mortal Kombat games.
Lame. Finish her. Noob Cybot twins. Fatality. And then when you kill someone without them even touching you, it's flawless victory.
Now, later on, like we'll cover, like Mortal Kombat was one of 3 games that was responsible for like the government really cracking down on video game censorship. So they pretty much forced the game industry to start like rating their games and regulating them for like a younger audience. So that's how the SRB came into play. And Mortal Kombat having blood in it was one of the 3 games that kind of like acted as a catalyst for that. Oh, and here's Super Castlevania 4.
It's Super Castlevania Lena Expialidocious. Okay, that was bad.
And I'd say I have this for Steam. I've played it recently because they released all the like Castlevania side scrollers for Steam, and
Raisin
NES
Girl's
ones-
in the waiting room.
Okay, one sec.
Uh-oh.
What do you want, Raisin Girl?
Why do you say, what do you want?
No.
I asked her to come in here. What do
Yeah,
you
what
mean?
the fuck do you want, Raisin Tits?
Why are you gonna ask her what she
I'll
wants? You were
fucking-
like, come in here and talk
You wanna
about
f-
this shit.
You want to fight, Raisin Tits?
Yeah, I want to fight Origin
me.
for claiming that there's even a remote chance that somebody within their right mind could think that the Nintendo releases are better.
Oh, you tell him. Raisin, I think. You,
Okay, so
I
what's
think you
better,
hold-
Sega or Nintendo, Raisin Girl?
Sega.
What games?
There's-
What are the best games on the Genesis?
What are the best games, or what were my favorite games? I mean, I
were
liked
your
Sonic. I loved Sonic. I really did. I like Mega Man like a lot. I
But
was really
Mario's
into Mega
better
Man.
than Sonic.
I like Mega Man.
But it's not better. He's not better than Mega Man, and you could get that on either system, and it looked better on the Genesis.
Raisin,
What about
I think you hold your mic too close to your mouth. Okay.
Is that better?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you don't have to hold it so close to your mouth.
What about Altered Beast? Did you play that?
Altered Beast was cool. Yeah.
Okay, what about Vectrex? Or
No, I didn't play that one.
so outside of Sonic, what would you say were the most appealing Genesis games?
I would have to look back. Honestly, that's been so many systems ago. I'd have to take a look real quick at the titles and tell you which ones I preferred.
I don't get why you invited Raisin on here for this. She's like 23 years old. I'm older than her. Okay?
Damn right.
There's no way she knows more about this than me. Okay?
You never know.
Thought she was older than you, Shab.
No. What do you mean?
Wow. Raisin, you gonna let him talk to you about this? He thinks you're like 80 years old or something. Let's fight him.
Dude, I'm that too. I'm 20 something. I'm 80 something. You just never know.
We're still figuring it out. We have to cut off her arm and count the rings.
That's right. How did you know that?
That's the only way to properly age Raisin.
Wait, now, have you played any of the Castlevania games, Raisin?
Only the first one.
Okay, so Castlevania 4 was for the Super Nintendo. This is Castlevania Bloodlines, which was the Castlevania game released for Genesis.
To be fair, my neighbors had Nintendos. Like it was just like a house-to-house battle between neighbors. But we played both. I just, I had to talk shit when I was at their house, just like they had to talk shit at my house.
Did you ever have kids that are like, oh, I'm not playing on the Super Nintendo. I'm not playing on the Sega Genesis. I'm not playing on the console that's the one that I don't own.
I don't remember anybody ever not playing for those reasons, but we definitely talked mad shit in everybody's living room, and like you couldn't have the cool candy and nobody would share with you if you were the fanboy in the room. You'd get ousted on the snacks and stuff. No good soda for you. Go drink that flat soda over there.
Yeah, Gene, drink the flat soda.
But it stuck. Like it really did get popular. The Nintendo, like it just for certain. I think for certain more like the people who like the darker titles. I don't think ever gravitated towards that. Like the arcade kids back then. Yeah, it was all Genesis. Because the arcade, there's no real great arcade games. There was no real. Honestly, I don't remember any title that was tempting that came out for the Nintendo that didn't end up on the Genesis too.
You're lying.
Or there was a better counterpart for Genesis. And again, that's my opinion. That's why I'm saying, like, you might want to get a fanboy in here to battle me on this one because I have strong opinions about Nintendo.
Super Castlevania 4 is better than Bloodlines?
I actually didn't play either one of those games, so I don't know. The Castlevania, I only played the original because there was not a whole lot of titles back then. Like, you played the new shit no matter what it came out on. So, I mean, like I said, it was just, the requisite that if your household was one particular system, that if when the new game came out on the other system, if you had to play it over there, it was you were required to, smack talk back and forth. That's just how it went.
Wait, now, it seems like in Bloodlines, you don't play as Simon Belmont, so you don't have a whip. You play as these two other characters, and it looks like one uses magic, and then the other one has like a staff.
Staph infection?
Or they have like a trident or a pike or something. Up. The Sega CD. Did you have a Sega CD?
It's cold.
My brother did.
Yeah,
I had the original cartridge shit.
It's released 2 years in, sold a couple million units. So what they did to try to prolong the lifespan of the Genesis is they released a bunch of add-on consoles. So there's this, and then there's the 32X, which we'll get to that later, but here's a CD advertisement.
Oh shit, Echo the Dolphin. I forgot about Echo the Dolphin. I love that game. I'm such a dork.
Right?
I know. Didn't they have an Echo the Dolphin game for the PS2?
They may have.
I don't know, but I used to play that shit all night long on Sega. I love that game.
Jumping through hoops. Little
Wrong
bubble
answer,
ring.
man. Show 'em.
It's the best. I could master like staying on top of the water. I used to make my brother jealous. He could never. We'd like do races to see who could stay on top of the water for the longest without falling back in. It's the fucking king.
Want to see more? Guessing like that kid's an idiot because he doesn't own the Sega CD.
Why would that make him an idiot?
Yeah. He's like, I don't know. He's like, what are you waiting for? Nintendo to make one? And I know Nintendo teamed up with Sony to make the Nintendo PlayStation, which was supposed to be their version of the Sega CD. And they like cut ties with Sony because they felt that they might corrupt the company, and that's how the PlayStation came to be. So the PlayStation originally was supposed to be a 32-bit CD add-on. And what I don't get is they ended up releasing the Saturn 6 months after they came out with the 32X add-on. And they had another console that wasn't released called the Sega Neptune, which was pretty much just a Genesis with the 32X and CD add-on pre-installed into it. So my thing is, like, why didn't they just release that so that way people who purchased all the add-ons, they'd already have the next-gen console? Because that doesn't seem like a bad marketing idea. Like, you spend, like, a third of the cost of a console on an add-on, and you gradually put on the add-ons, then you release the version of the system that's just has the add-ons pre-installed. But then they just released the Saturn, which kind of goes against the point of what they were doing to begin with.
Yeah, that was kind of their downfall, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I liked the system enough, but it just it took away bragging rights. All of a sudden, Nintendo people had a leg to stand on, and that wasn't comfortable. It was like when Spaghetti Incident came out, my love for Guns N' Roses had to be hidden deep in a dark closet. Like, you just, some things you gotta give up on.
Something you just gotta keep to yourselves.
Yeah, so
that means you failed Raisin Girl, Gene.
Yeah, here's the 32X, and as you can see here, it could play like 3D games similar to like Star Fox. So what Nintendo did instead of making an add-on is they just had like these like GPUs installed into like the silicon frames inside the cartridges. So that way you didn't have to buy an add-on. Yeah, you could just upgrade the games themselves. And pretty much you could play the same kind of games without buying like a $200 like installment. And this sold less than 1 million units, so and only had 40 games installed for it. And I do know there were a few games that actually required you to own both the 32X and the Sega CD. And I think they were even planning on installing games where you had to own 2 32X units. So you'd stack 2 32X units on top of each other.
They were really trying to compete, I think, with the Nintendo game model, because a lot of the Nintendo stuff had, you know what I mean? Like, it seemed like, okay, I get this game, whatever. But even as the especially as like with the GameCube, it was awesome, but it was such a pain in the ass because you didn't just have to get the system, you had to get the Game Boy player, and you had to get, you know what I mean, like the cords to connect your Game Boys to it so that you could play certain games because you needed to see your stats on the screens. Everything was nickel and diamond. It was basically like the business model for DLC before DLC was a thing.
Right.
And it was really annoying. Like, I liked the systems where you could just buy your game, you put it in, and that was like you got the whole game for the price you paid. It was very upfront. Like, some of it required like a, you know, like a gun or some kind of an arcade stick or something, but if it happened like that, there was usually multiple titles for other systems, whereas with Nintendo, it'd be like they'd release a game and there was a specific add-on or plug-in for that game that cost as much as the game almost on most of them, and it was just not something I was into. Like, that would irritate me, and it was for, in my opinion, growing up, like, I did like kid games on the original Genesis. Like, I'm looking through the list, I'm like, oh man, I played some really dorky games. But I was a kid.
I remember playing Marvin the Martian. I think that was my
Yes.
favorite.
Is that a Looney Tunes character? Well, here's the 32X commercial.
Machine has appeared in homes across America.
And redouble his power. 32.
6 times more powerful than 3DO.
Oh, and the 3DO was another major competitor.
Yo, there is no 32-bit Super NES. Are we gonna see the games or what? Show me.
I know. Wasn't Doom available on the Super Nintendo?
Thank you.
I have no idea.
Doom was always better on the computer anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, so you could stack like two 32X units on top of each other, and that would make it 64-bit. So, I mean, I kind of like that idea of you could just gradually upgrade it, but I guess they decide to can that.
And it's just adding more stuff on more stuff. It's just kind of like, just make it already like that.
It was the same with the 2600 adapter. It was glitchy because it was glitchy enough to put those cartridge games in. You'd be blowing on them and trying to get shit to be like lined up right if your pins got messed up. And when you had those kind of plugins, you had to worry about the things on those too. And once they went, you had to get a new one, and they stopped making them after a while. So it just kind of turns into a wash. Those things don't work for too long. It was all pin technology, so you're lining things up, and if one thing goes out, you got to go a whole new thing.
I think there were like several games where like you needed the CD add-on and the 32X add-on to play them, and Corpse Killer is one of them. And a lot of what's that, Shab?
I said you look cute today. No, I didn't say
Well,
anything.
Oh, I thought someone was trying to talk.
Maybe Origin. Origin, what were you trying to say? Go ahead and tell us.
I was trying to say that I lost my foreskin.
That's
Now, one thing a lot of these CD games did is they try to use like video, like motion capture, so they'd have like actors like part of like the gameplay mechanics and everything.
You're lying. It's not real.
Yeah, so this was released on the PC and like the 3DO, and I know like the 3DO was only on the market for like a couple years, so that was one of the first like CD systems. And you had the TurboGrafx 16, which I guess was the third most successful console this generation. So that was the main competitor against, or I guess that was the only other major competitor against Nintendo and Sega. And then there was the Neo Geo, which do you know anything about? Do you know anything about the Neo Geo, Reason Girl?
Not so much. I had a friend who had it, but we never really went over there to play that. I don't remember there being a whole lot of titles that were super enticing.
Like, I know that like the cartridges were like gigantic, and the games themselves cost like $80. They cost like 2 times the amount of a game for any other system. And
yeah,
the
it
console,
was a rich kid system.
yeah, the console itself was really expensive. So it pretty much allowed you to play games that were that required an arcade cabinet to play.
That's crazy.
It's all right. She's with me. Are you guys okay?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Double Dragon, that was a cool one. That was popular with everybody pretty much.
And I know that because it was like video cutscenes like on a CD, so like CDs have like a third of a gigabyte of storage. Like the video quality was very grainy, and the aspect ratio was really small, so it wouldn't fit the aspect ratio of your TV.
But it was the coolest shit out of the time, so nobody really knew anything better. So like, as FMVs were a thing, like that was a big deal. Like, people got sick of it if they weren't into like, because at first you couldn't skip them. That was a pain in the ass if you weren't into the story. But most people who played things with FMVs were into the story then.
And I know, what was it, like Dragon's Lair? That was like the iconic arcade game, like Don Bluth animated it, and it was all about QuickTime events. So you have to click right when the like right arrow like lights up. So a lot of games for the Sega CD were like that, where they were pretty much just interactive movies where you just had to click like the right combination of buttons at a particular time.
Button combinations were huge back then, and it didn't always match up. Even into the PlayStation, they didn't always match up like real time to what you were doing. I don't remember that even in fighting games at all until like Dead or Alive and stuff like that was when you really started to get the games where they were reactive instantly, and you could really kind of maneuver where you were going with the right, left, up, down, like all of it. And it wasn't just a combination thing where you're like just pressing the buttons like that, but like when you're actually controlling where your character is going was not a thing back then. It was all about those button combinations and timing them right. And once you got them in, the character just kind of did its own thing. So it was kind of sluggy. Like I remember games I loved from back then that I've tried to pick up and play in the last decade, and it's not tolerable. Like, it's just really not tolerable.
What do you think about that, Shab?
I disagree with her.
Oh.
Because she's a woman.
You like those?
Okay? 'Cause she's
Okay,
a woman.
fair enough.
And everything she said is wrong.
Oh, boy.
Okay?
I saw that coming.
Oh, and
This
like
woman will kick your ass in Mortal Kombat, kid.
You want a Mortal Kombat
Well, Shab
fight?
sucks at video games. Like, I barely play Call of Duty at all. But whenever I play, I always outscore them.
All right, Gene, what are we going to play after this so you can prove me wrong?
Oh.
Prove that you're better, huh? Prove that you're better, huh? Huh?
Civ 6.
Oh, my God.
No, but,
Paperboy, that was another awesome title. I loved
bad
Paperboy. You break out everybody's windows with the papers.
didn't they make like a Paperboy game for the Nintendo 64?
I think so.
Oh. No, but with the SRB, this was like Lethal Enforcers was another big catalyst for why they wanted the game industry to regulate games, because it had a more realistic light gun, if you call that realistic. So I guess it wasn't as I guess abstract enough, like the Super Scope or whatever, and it had like the full motion video capture applied to the game. So I guess it was the first light gun game to have that kind of feature. And I guess it has blood as well. Or I don't know if that's a flash.
Period blood?
Yeah, so it looks realistic, and you're holding a gun that I guess has a more realistic design compared to the typical light gun. So yeah, this is encouraging kids to shoot up schools and stuff.
Whoa. Allegedly.
And then you had Night Trap, so this was another really divisive game for the time. So essentially, pretty much like there are these like weird burglars who are like breaking into this house where these kids are having a party, and you have to switch to the like 8 different camera views. So you play as this weird guy.
Vampires.
Yeah, you play as this weird guy who's stalking all the teenagers who are having a house party, and you're setting all these traps to trap the burglars from like assaulting or killing the teenagers. So the premise
And
is
they're
very
essentially
convoluted.
vampires.
I don't think there's vampires in the game.
No, they are vampires because they put this device on your neck and it takes the blood out. They drink
Why
it.
don't you pay attention, Jane? Everyone knows that. God.
Because I know it. I know Night
God.
Trap.
And Sarah's coming in with 6 more tonight.
Yeah, look at how realistic this is, Shab.
The problem is Sheila and I
Can you
might
kill
have
them?
to make a delivery. That's no problem.
I remember this from the Cinema Snob when he covered Night Trap.
Yeah, so here are the goons, and it makes you think. I don't know exactly what the like narrative is, but it's like, why don't they just send in a SWAT team to apprehend all these goons? Like, why are there so
They
many
actually
goons?
do. They actually do, but it's at the very end of the game.
And it's also like, okay, like, why did they, like, the amount of energy it took to install, like, all of these traps in the house? Like, why didn't they, like, once again, just send in a SWAT team to apprehend them to begin with?
Because then you couldn't play the game. Only the best acting for this.
Doesn't this game look entertaining,
I
Sam?
know how to act like I'm 2 years old. Look at me.
Yeah, see, look. That device
God,
right
look
there,
at
they
this,
put it
like,
on your neck.
just video realistic, like, violence.
That's what Shabisky would do if he was, like, kidnapping women. He'd be like, I'm gonna get them with this.
I'll kidnap anybody I want, because I'm cool, okay? Including you, Jane.
Oh, and I think
It's
that's
as if
the...
a Slumber Party Massacre were a video game.
Yeah, so I think that's all the slides I have. How long have we gone in?
Almost
We've
3
been-
hours.
Been streaming, yeah.
Actually, it has been 3 hours.
Yeah.
In 4 minutes, it'll be 3 hours. In 3 minutes. Yep.
Yeah, what else do you think we should have covered, Raising Girl?
Your face
I
with
missed a
cum.
whole bunch of it. Oh, Lord have mercy.
She agrees.
Well, maybe, I don't know. This
Did you
Sunday...
cover Mega Man when I wasn't here? I missed all this stuff before I started chatting. I wasn't here.
Well, I mean, we pretty much went through all the major, like, iconic games for the Super Nintendo and Genesis. We got to when they established the ESRBs, so now, right around the corner, we're getting to, like, PlayStation, Nintendo 64 territory. So I think maybe we should save another stream for the PlayStation, Genesis, or PlayStation, Saturn, N64 saga.
If I'm going to be here for that, you definitely need to find somebody to defend the N64, because I was all about the PlayStation once Resident Evil was released. I was like, wait, what? I'm getting that. That's fine.
Raising Girl's smart. Raising Girl's smart. She was a PlayStation girl when it was around.
That's the only reason I got a Nintendo GameCube, because for a while they said Resident Evil was going to be GameCube exclusive, so I got pissed off and bought one.
Yeah,
the Resident Evil
4.
original remake of the first one was only on GameCube for a while.
Code Veronica was released originally only for GameCube.
Well, it was for Dreamcast initially.
Oh, that's right. That's why I got that system too. I think every system I bought after that was following Resident Evil around.
Yeah.
My favorite game series.
It's the best. I don't know about the new stuff. That seemed kind of crap once they went FPS with it.
Yeah, I actually had
Jane.
Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 for the GameCube, and I played through them, and I gotta say, there's nothing like those games. And even though they haven't like with the tank controls and the really cheesy cutscenes, the way like they're like they don't animate their faces and so forth, the game still kind of in a way has aged well because of how like cheesy and corny it is.
You almost became a Jill sandwich.
Yeah. But here, what do you think we should do next week? So I'm gonna save. This Sunday's stream. I'm thinking we'll cover the news then. So I'll get all the news for the last few weeks gathered. We'll talk about the Taliban, I guess, and
I
maybe
know what we
since
should do for the.
what should we do?
I know
Origin?
the next topic should be. It should be on the growing up years with Gene, like his photos when he was in school and how he was and his diary. We're gonna figure out all about Gene.
Very few photos of me from when I was a kid. But
well, teenager, high school, middle school. We're gonna learn about Gene.
Well, distancing from Origin's dad jokes. I think maybe since it's almost 9/11, maybe next week we'll do like a conspiracy theory episode. I won't cover the 9/11 conspiracies because I think they're stupid, but I think maybe let's cover some flat Earth stuff and some Hollow Earth stuff. I think that stuff could be funny.
We should cover some Shabisky stuff. I mean, there's some conspiracy theories about him.
Or maybe I'll look into some conspiracies that actually turned out to be true. Because
I was going to say, what about conspiracy facts?
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Maybe I'll look into a few conspiracies that actually turned out to have some ounce of credibility to them. And maybe some, not like the generic conspiracy theories that everyone talks about. Like the QAnon and reptilian conspiracies. I'm going to try to find some more less known, more niche conspiracy theories that.
Yeah, you can cover how why am I blanking on his name? How Lee Harvey Oswald actually didn't assassinate Kennedy. It was someone else.
No, but that's one of the more well-known, typically discussed conspiracies.
The Zapruder film. He filmed it.
Well, anyway,
when you look at.
So this Sunday, I think we're going to do a conspiracy-themed episode, and then the next Sunday we'll cover the following generation of video games, because I don't want to do 2 game episodes back-to-back. And I think I'll also try to do another Skyrim stream tomorrow, and I think we'll do another movie commentary for patrons. So I'm going to try to get 4 streams done throughout this week to compensate for the fact that I've been off the internet for a week and a half.
It's the kitty.
So are you going to stop sharing the data?
No. All right, Kitty. Kitty says bye, guys.